Oh, okay. It's the weekend anyway, so I'll head back with Ethan in a bit. Grace Miller hung up the phone and turned to Ethan Ford. Ethan, my mom wants us to swing by the house. We've got company. My cousin Lillian is in town. Apparently, she's in a bad mood, and Mom doesn't know what happened. Ethan nodded. Sure thing. We'll head out after breakfast. I've been so swamped lately. It's actually been a while since we visited the old neighborhood. The two of them got ready, grabbed a quick bite at the diner downstairs from the hotel, and caught a cab back to the Mill residential compound. By the time they reached the neighborhood, it was nearly noon. Lily Miller had been busy in the kitchen all morning, and the table was already set. Mom, Dad, we're home. Grace shouted the moment she stepped through the door. The sight of the feast on the table made her mouth water instantly. You're just in time for lunch. I'm starving, George Miller said, folding his newspaper and rising from the sofa to take his seat at the table. Ethan, you're back. Go wash up. We're about to eat, Lily Miller said, emerging from the kitchen with a steaming bowl of hearty beef bone soup, her eyes crinkling with a warm smile for Ethan. Will do, Lily, Ethan replied with a grin. Grace immediately pouted, her lip trembling in mock betrayal. Wow, Mom, talk about favoritism. Your beautiful daughter is standing right in front of you, and you don't even see her? It's just Ethan this and Ethan that. Lily laughed, swatting at her daughter playfully. I see you, I see you. Stop being so dramatic. Go wash your hands and tell your cousin it's time to eat. Hey, don't blame her, Grace, Ethan teased, throwing an arm around Grace's shoulder and steering her toward the bathroom. It's a well-known fact that the mother-in-law loves the son-in-law more. It's just science. Grace let out a huff and gave Ethan's side a sharp pinch. In your dreams, Ford. Ow, careful, Grace. That's domestic abuse. Oof. We aren't even engaged yet. Don't go calling yourself a son-in-law just yet. Oh, keep talking like that, and I'll have my parents bring the engagement ring over tonight. I'll have you moved in by Monday morning. From the kitchen, Lily and George heard the bickering coming from the bathroom and shared a knowing, contented smile. Aunt Lily? Uncle George? Is Grace back? Who is she talking to? Oh, it's just Ethan. You met him when you were kids, Lily said, waving it off with an airy gesture, though her eyes remained bright with satisfaction. Lillian blinked, stunned. Ethan Ford? Wait, Grace and Ethan are together? Since when? Lillian was genuinely shocked. She remembered meeting Ethan a few times years ago when she'd come to play, but she never imagined Grace would end up with the boy next door. Listening to them now, they sounded incredibly close, maybe a little too close for comfort. Grace was so sweet and naive. Lillian hoped she wasn't being played. Throughout lunch, Lillian kept shooting Ethan suspicious, probing glances. Ethan, for his part, felt like he was being examined under a microscope. Grace, I'm gonna head to my place to check in on my folks. I'll come back and find you later, okay? Ethan said after they finished eating. Once Ethan left, Grace retreated to her room and collapsed onto the bed. Lillian followed her, stretching out beside her. It had been a long time since the cousins had seen each other, and it was time for a heart-to-heart. Lillian, Mom said you've been down lately. What's going on? Grace asked, turning to face her. Lillian's eyes flickered, and she shook her head. It's nothing, really. Just the usual family drama. You know how my parents are. Grace felt a pang of sympathy. Lillian was her Aunt Brenda's daughter. Brenda and her husband had always been the type to favor their son, Lillian's younger brother, who was currently in middle school. Growing up, Lillian had been the scapegoat, constantly scolded or ignored. She hadn't even finished high school before Brenda pulled her out to work in a factory to pay for her brother's tuition. Grace figured Lillian had probably been berated at home again. Why don't you stay with us for a few days? Grace suggested, rolling onto her stomach and resting her chin on her hands, her legs swinging back and forth. I don't have classes tomorrow. I can take you around the city. Lillian felt a surge of warmth. Grace had always been the kindest person she knew, but she shook her head. I wish I could, but I only took a couple of days off. I have to be back at work tomorrow, or they'll dock my pay. She paused, looking Grace in the eye. Forget about me. What's the deal with you and Ethan? Aunt Lily says you guys are the real deal. Does he treat you right? Remembering the way Grace and Ethan had been flirting with their eyes across the table, Lillian couldn't help but ask. Grace beamed, a sweet, genuine smile. Yeah, Ethan is the best. So, how far has it gone? Have you guys? You know, Lillian leaned in, a mischievous, slightly protective glint in her eye. Know what? Grace looked confused for a split second, then the realization hit her. Her face turned bright crimson, and she nodded shyly. Oh my God, Lillian, why are you asking that? I am embarrassed. Lillian's face flushed too, but she pressed on. Huh, I knew it. Look at that glow on your face. It looks like Ethan's keeping you very satisfied. She lowered her voice to a whisper. Come on, tell me. How many times a night? Grace's brain felt like it was short-circuiting. Her face was as red as a fire engine. Stop it. Lillian, don't ask that. It's too much. Lillian fell back onto the bed, laughing. Grace was so precious. Ethan Ford was one lucky guy. But seriously, Grace, Lillian said, her tone suddenly turning grave. You have to be careful. Use protection. You haven't graduated college yet. Don't go getting yourself into a situation. She sat up, looking dead serious. If you got pregnant now, with Ethan's family background, I think things would get very difficult for you both. You're still a student. Do you remember that girl I told you about from our old neighborhood? Grace nodded vaguely. She was in school, got involved with some guy from the next town over, and ended up pregnant. She had to drop out to have a kid. I heard recently the guy left her for someone else. Now she's a single mom working 3 part-time jobs just to scrape by. It's a miserable life. Wait until you graduate and have a career, then think about marriage. If you have your own money, you won't be trapped. Grace was touched that Lillian was looking out for her so intensely. It's not like that, Lillian. Ethan would never do that to me. He knows where the line is. He wouldn't let anything like that happen before we graduate. And even if there was an accident, Ethan would never run away. Lillian finally seemed to relax. The two of them spent the afternoon talking about everything under the sun. But as the hours passed, Lillian's face paled. She winced, clutching her stomach. Grace, I think my monthly visitor just arrived. Do you have any supplies? Grace rummaged through her bathroom cabinet, but realized she'd used the last of hers. I think I'm out. I can run to the store for you. Lillian waved her off. No, it's fine. I'll go. You don't know which brand I use anyway. Grace didn't press it. She knew Lillian was picky about that sort of thing. The next morning, Lillian left before Grace even woke up. She had to catch an early bus to make it back to work. Lily Miller didn't try to stop her, but she set about tidying up the house. While she was changing the trash bag in the bathroom, Lily's eyes caught something strange. She froze, staring into the bin. Her eyes widened in a look of pure shock. She let out a scream that could be heard 3 houses down. George, get in here. Something huge just happened. George, oh my God, George, get up. Lily Miller shrieked, sprinting into the bedroom and shaking the sleeping George Miller until his head nearly rattled. George, wake up. We have a crisis. A big one. George's heart nearly leaped out his chest. His morning grogginess vanished instantly. What happened? Is the house on fire? Lily gave him an exasperated look. Don't be a clown. This is serious. George, I found something in the bathroom trash. Guess what it is? George leaned back against the headboard, a small smirk playing on his lips. What could be in bathroom trash? That's worth a morning heart attack. Did you find a winning lottery ticket? This is worth way more than a lottery ticket. But before I show you, I'm getting the blood pressure medicine ready. I'm worried you won't be able to handle the excitement. Lily's smile was widening into a look of sheer, manic joy. George's interest was piqued. What on earth is it? Just tell me, Lily. I'm a grown man. I can take it. Lily decided to play it safe and actually set a glass of water and the pills on the nightstand first. Then, like she was presenting a holy relic, she held it out. George, look closely. Don't let your eyes play tricks on you. George peered at the small plastic stick in her hand. Then he squinted. Then his jaw hit his chest. Is that an EPT? 2 lines? We're having a baby? He blinked, then looked at his wife with a horrified expression. Wait, who's pregnant? You. George, I'm nearly 50. Well, you're still a beautiful woman, Lily. I didn't know I still had that kind of fire in me. Lily reached out and gave his thigh a savage pinch. Stop talking nonsense before I smack you. I'm a grandmother-to-be, not a new mother. Imagine the gossip if I were pregnant at my age. George was dazed. Then, his eyes slowly drifted toward Grace's closed bedroom door. His eyes went wide, and he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Grace. Grace is pregnant? I'm going to be a grandfather. He went rigid, turning back to Lily with a look of utter disbelief. I found it in the trash bin. Who else could it be? Surely you don't think it was Lillian? She was only here for a night. It has to be Grace. You're sure? You're absolutely sure? Lily scoffed. 2 pink lines don't lie, George. You're going to be a grandpa. George let out a long, shaky breath. He felt like a ton of bricks had just dropped on him, in a good way. He sat there, speechless, for a full minute. George, say something. Don't scare me. Here, take the pill. Lily started trying to force the blood pressure medicine into his mouth, but George swatted it away and burst into a booming laugh. I'm fine. I'm better than fine. Ha! I'm going to be a grandpa. A grandpa. Ha ha. I'm having a grandson. Ha! That boy Ethan. He certainly doesn't waste any time, does he? Lily looked at him like he'd lost his mind. George seemed to have laughed himself into a stupor. Ignoring her look, George kicked off the blankets and started pacing the room, his excitement boiling over. It took him a good 5 minutes to calm down enough to speak rationally. Lily, listen. Grace and Ethan haven't told us. They're probably worried because they're still in school. They might be scared. George clasped his hands behind his back, his expression turning serious. But this is Grace's first child. Our first grandchild. We've seen how much those two love each other. I watched Ethan grow up since he was in diapers. I trust him with Grace. And more importantly, there isn't another man on this planet I'd accept as a son-in-law. It has to be Ethan. Lily nodded firmly. I feel the same way. Ethan is the only choice. When I was emptying the trash, the thing was wrapped in a piece of paper. If it hadn't slipped out a little, I never would have seen it. They're definitely trying to keep it a secret. George thought for a moment. Lily, go to the market. Buy the best of everything. I'm going to call Frank and Mary over for lunch. This is the best news we've ever had. We need to celebrate. Also, Grace is an adult. If they want to get married, it's the right time. And if they're busy with school or work, well, they've got 4 grandparents ready to step in. We'll handle the heavy lifting. One way or another, they aren't keeping this from us. 9:00 a.m. Grace was in the middle of a wonderful dream when she was jolted awake by a knocking on the door. Lily Miller pushed the door open before Grace could even answer. As she looked at her sleeping daughter, Lily's gaze instinctively drifted toward Grace's stomach, her face filled with maternal tenderness. Grace, sweetie, get up. I'm making a feast today, all your favorites. Ethan's parents are coming over, too. Oh, and call Ethan. Tell him he needs to be here. We're all having a big family meal. The Fords are coming over. Okay, I'm up, Grace said, still groggy and confused. But at the mention of Ethan's parents, she tried to sit up quickly. Before she could move, Lily's hand moved with surprising speed, gently but firmly pressing her back down into the pillows. Grace, honey, things are different now. You can't be throwing yourself around like you used to, especially for these first 3 months. You have to be careful. Small movements only. And, well, certain activities are strictly off limits. Lily smiled knowingly. I know you could be a bit of klutz, so when Ethan gets here, I'm going to have a very long talk with him. Grace blinked, utterly baffled. Mom, what are you talking about? Why do I need to be careful for 3 months? What activities? Lily's eyes flickered toward Grace's belly again, a playful, scolding smile on her face. Oh, stop it. You can't hide it from me. I already know. Your father knows. Frank and Mary know. We all know. You might still be in college, but you're an adult. We're open-minded, Grace. We aren't going to be mad. We're here for you. You don't have to worry about a thing. Grace was beyond confused. What? What did that even mean? She'd just woken up. What had happened in the last 8 hours? Anyway, the most important thing is that you rest and eat well. Get up when you're ready, eat, and then you can go back to sleep. Don't forget to call Ethan. Lily beamed and stepped out, carefully closing the door behind her like she was sealing a vault. Grace sat there in stunned silence for a while before rolling over and tapping on the window that faced Ethan's room across the alley. Ethan, get up. We have a major situation. Ethan, looking sleep-deprived but happy, opened his window and waved. Morning, Grace. Missing me already? Grace shot him a look. In your dreams. But seriously, Ethan, get over here. I think my parents are plotting something. Ethan saw the look on Grace's face and couldn't help but chuckle. What kind of plot? Let me guess. They're conspiring to marry you off to me. Grace huffed. You wish. Just get over here, you'll see. Ethan was about to tease her more when his phone started ringing on the bedside table. It was his mother, Mary Ford. Hey, son, you awake? Get over to the Millers right now for breakfast. The moment he picked up, Mary's voice boomed through the line, vibrating with an excitement she could barely contain. Ethan was taken aback. Breakfast? Where? Mom, it's early. Are you and Dad even home? On the other end, Mary Ford let out a long, joyous laugh. Ha! Son, stop the act. We know everything. Ha ha! I should scold you for being so reckless with Grace, but what's done is done. We aren't going to hold it against you. But since you did the deed, you have to take responsibility. We aren't letting Grace be treated unfairly. It's settled. Get over here. We're at George's place. We need to discuss the details. Don't you dare go back to sleep. Ethan stared at the dead phone, completely lost. What happened? What did I do? When did I mistreat Grace? And why were his parents already at the Millers for breakfast? Was there a holiday he'd forgotten? He looked up at the window where Grace was watching him with a smug, I told you so expression. He realized she was right. This was definitely a conspiracy. 9:30 a.m. Ethan and Grace sat side by side on the Millers' sofa. Facing them were all 4 parents, 8 eyes fixed on them. The looks varied. Some were warm, some were stern, some were accusatory, others were bursting with pride. Mostly, The warmth was directed at Grace. The stern, accusatory stares were reserved exclusively for Ethan. Frank Ford's internal monologue. You little rascal. Fess up. What did you do to Grace? She's so young. I ought to throw you in a lake for being such a hound. But, dumb, son. A hole in one. You got your old man's touch. Good job, kid. George Miller's internal monologue. Ethan really is a good kid. I like him more every day. Grace really hooked the big one. He's going to be my son-in-law now. With his energy, we'll probably have 2 grandkids within 3 years. I'm going to be the best babysitter in the world. Lily Miller's internal monologue. Perfect. Grace has great taste. Now I don't have to worry about some little hussy stealing my son-in-law. One baby might not be enough for all of us to spoil, though. Ethan needs to work harder. Let's get a few more in the queue. Mary Ford's internal monologue. Look at these two. About to be parents, and they're still acting like kids. Especially Ethan. You do something like this, and you don't even have the decency to step up yet? Are they planning to keep it a secret forever? The 4 parents shared a synchronized, knowing smile. Not a chance. Not on their watch. Ethan, honey, how's work? How are your classes? You look a little thin. You must be exhausted. Lily Miller smiled broadly as she took Ethan's bowl. She ladled out a massive beef bone and several chunks of potato, packing the bowl so tightly she actually had to press down with a spoon to make it fit. Ethan, we've watched you grow up. We trust you with Grace. She's been a little spoiled by us, so I know she might be a handful. But don't you worry. If she gives you any trouble, you just let me know and I'll straighten her out. Ethan took the overflowing bowl, or rather, the bowl of bone with a side of soup, with a trembling hand. He felt like his life was flashing before his eyes. Thanks, Lily, Ethan said, his smile as forced as a default emoji. Mary Ford, not to be outdone, grabbed Grace's bowl. She looked like she wanted to dump the entire pot into it. We can't just feed Ethan. He's the one who caused this whole mess. Grace is the one doing the hard work. She needs the nutrition now more than ever. She has to eat for 2. Mary went into the kitchen and returned with an even larger bowl, transferring the biggest marrow bones from Ethan's bowl to Grace's. Soon, 2 massive, meat-filled bowls sat in front of shell-shocked Grace. Here, Grace, eat up. I'll deal with Ethan later. Thanks, Mary, Grace said, her smile mirroring Ethan's. She felt like she was made of stone. Ethan stared at his bowl, watching his meat get hijacked. He felt miserable, but he didn't dare say a word. The 2 youngsters shared a quick, panicked glance, then immediately looked down at their soup, too terrified to speak first. Under the table, where the parents couldn't see, their eyes were screaming at each other. Grace, Ethan, what is going on? I feel like I'm on trial. This isn't a meal, it's an interrogation. Did you do something illegal? Ethan, I have no idea. I've been an angel. I haven't done anything wrong. If anyone did something, it was you. Grace, liar. I just got back yesterday. Even if I wanted to do something bad, I haven't had time. Be honest, did you do something behind my back? Ethan, I swear on my life, no. Lily Miller watched them flirting with their eyes over the soup and felt her heart swell. She leaned in, smiling. So, Ethan, when are we making this official? Ethan blinked. Huh, making what official? Mary Ford shot her son a glare. Oh, stop it. We know. You can't hide it. Are you trying to say you won't take responsibility? If you let Grace down, I'll show you exactly how I raised you. Ethan was beyond bewildered. Mom, what are you talking about? What do you know? How have I let Grace down? Mary and Frank exchange a look. Does the idiot really not know? Oh, right. Grace probably just took the test last night and hasn't told him yet. Huh, this is even better. The father is the last one to know. The grandkid is going to have a field day laughing at his dad for this one. Mary cleared her throat. Well, son, since you're clearly a bit slow, it's up to your mother to give you the big news. Brace yourself. Try not to pass out. Ethan stared at his mother's solemn, ceremonial expression and nodded dumbly. Mary and Lily shared one final look. Lily reached into the sideboard and pulled out a small box, placing it on the table in front of Ethan with the gravity of a judge delivering a verdict. Ethan, open it. Lily Miller placed the small box in front of Ethan, a mysterious, triumphant smile on her face. At the table, Grace was still utterly confused, but the 4 parents were holding their breath, their eyes glued to Ethan's face, waiting for the explosion. Ethan opened the box and saw something wrapped in a tissue. He unwrapped it carefully and found a small plastic stick, a used test strip. It was a pregnancy test. Wait, 2 lines. Ethan's breath hitched. His eyes bulged as he stared at the 2 unmistakable, vivid red lines on the strip. Grace was pregnant. He was going to be a father. Ethan turned to Grace, his neck moving like a rusty hinge. His eyes were wide as dinner plates. Grace, you're having a baby? I'm going to be a dad. Before Grace could even process the words, Ethan lunged across the seat and scooped her into a massive bear hug, his face radiating pure, unadulterated joy. I'm gonna be a dad. I'm a father. Ha ha ha. I'm a legend. Ethan lifted Grace and started spinning her around the living room, letting out a laugh that sounded like a foghorn. The four parents collectively wore the proud Annie/uncle smile, but there was a hint of smugness underneath. Frank Ford, the boys got game, but I still think I was faster back in the day. Mary Ford, look at him. He looks like a total dork, but he's got good taste. He picked the best girl in the world to be my daughter-in-law. George Miller, look at that kid go. It's settled. He's in. Lily Miller, Ethan didn't let me down. Grace really picked a winner. But one grandkid isn't going to be enough. I need to keep Grace well-fed so they can get started on the second one soon. The five people were lost in a fog of euphoria and future fantasies, except for Grace. She was being spun so fast she felt like she was in a centrifuge. The soup she'd just eaten was threatening to make a reappearance. Ethan, put me down. I am gonna barf. Grace's face was pale, and she dug her nails into Ethan's solid shoulders. Ethan let out a yelp of pain and finally realized what he was doing. He set her down as gently as if she were made of glass. He saw thee. I just got a little carried away. Grace, are you okay? Is the baby okay? Ethan rubbed the back of his head, his eyes shining with tears of joy. Grace shook her head, trying to clear the spots from her vision. I'm Fina. Just dizzy and nauseous. Because you just gave me a ride on a tilt-a-whirl, she wanted to say, but she didn't get the chance. Mary Ford swooped in like a protective hawk, shoving Ethan aside and shielding Grace. You idiot. I was just about to praise you, and then you go and pull a stunt like that. Grace is delicate right now. If you hurt her, I'll tan your hide. Mary swatted Ethan's backside. I'm going to have to put you through a parenting class before this kid arrives. My bad. I deserve it. I'm just so happy. Don't worry, Mom. I'll start studying right now. I'll be the best dad ever. Ethan didn't even care that he'd been smacked. He just kept grinning like a fool. Lily Miller laughed. Mary, leave the boy alone. It's his first time being a dad. It's natural to be excited. Besides, we're all here to help. Exactly. Ethan's a Miller man now. If you break our son-in-law, you're going to have to pay us back. George Miller joked, joining in the laughter. I don't know what kind of luck this kid has, but he's got the best protection in the world now, Frank Ford added, his laugh echoing through the house. The four parents continued to joke and celebrate, their voices filling the home with warmth. Meanwhile, Ethan was staring at Grace's stomach, which was still perfectly flat, and his mind was already miles away. 2 lifetimes, and this is the first time I'm going to be a dad. It's incredible. I wonder if it's a boy or a girl. If it's a girl, she has to look like Grace. I'll name her something beautiful. I'll do all the diapers, all the feedings. Grace won't have to lift a finger. Wait, if she's a girl, some boy is going to try to take her away someday. That's my little girl. My hands are itching. I feel like I need to buy a shotgun. Duh. But what if it's a boy? I'll call him Champ. We'll play ball. Wait, what if it's twins? Man, I really am the greatest. Oh, carrot. Oh, wait, the house is too small. I need a bigger place. A mansion. I need to call Tank. I'll have him find me a penthouse. And I'll casually mention this little detail to him. Thinking about Tank's face when he found out Ethan was going to be a dad made Ethan burst into another fit of giggles. Grace watched Ethan cycling through joy, anger, and madness, and she felt like she was losing her mind. Is this for real? I just took a nap and now I'm a mom. But they're so happy. If I tell them the truth now, will they survive the disappointment? Grace hesitated, her face scrunched in a worried knot. Wait, was it her imagination, or did her lower stomach feel a bit cramped? Something felt off. She felt a sudden, warm sensation. Oh no, not now. Grace went numb. No, it can't be. Grace? What is it? Are you okay? You look pale. Ethan noticed his voice rising in panic. Did I hurt you? Hospital. We're going to the hospital right now. Ethan didn't wait for an answer. He scooped her up and headed for the door. Blood. There's blood. Grace, don't scare me. Mary Ford's sharp eyes spotted a stain on Grace's jeans, and she panicked. Hospital. Go. Now. Don't panic. She'll be fine. I'll get the car. You guys go. I'll grab her ID. Move. We have to save the baby. No, mother and child. The living room descended into utter chaos. Grace buried her face in Ethan's chest, her skin burning with shame. Oh my God, this is the ultimate social death. How did this happen to me? I want to crawl into a hole and never come out. But if she didn't explain now, something even worse was going to happen. Grace took a deep breath and slapped Ethan's shoulder. Wait, Ethan, put me down. It's not what you think. Ethan, listen to me. You guys have it all wrong. Grace slapped Ethan's shoulder again, her face redder than a ripe tomato. Oh my God, how do I even explain this? Someone, please, just strike me down right now. Grace was at the absolute peak of embarrassment, but the parents were too frantic to notice. Grace, honey, don't talk. Save your strength. George Miller cried, his voice trembling. Don't worry, we're right behind you. You're going to be okay, and the baby will be okay too. Grace, you're our first priority. Nothing else matters. Mary Ford shouted, trying to drape a coat over Grace as Ethan hurried toward the door. Ethan's grip on her was iron tight, his heart hammering against her chest like a drum. He was genuinely terrified for her and the baby. Grace felt a surge of warmth. She knew Ethan truly loved her. But for the love of everything, let her finish his sentence. Quiet. Everyone, just listen to me. Grace screamed. The baby isn't Ethan's. The room went dead silent. Everyone froze mid-motion. Dad, Frank, I know you're worried, but stop. You've misunderstood everything. The baby isn't Ethan's. And it isn't mine either. I'm not pregnant. Grace blurted it out, terrified of letting the misunderstanding go 1 second longer. That single sentence acted like a freeze ray. The parents stared at her, their brains rebooting. Not pregnant? Then whose EPT was that? If you aren't pregnant, Grace, why are you bleeding? Lily Miller stared at the stain on Grace's jeans, her logic failing to make the connection. Oh my God, Mom, don't make me say it. I'm not pregnant. It was a mistake. Grace felt another wave of heat and realized she couldn't wait. Ethan, put me down. My time of the month just started. I needed to go to the store and get me supplies. Now, Grace gripped Ethan's shoulders, her face glowing with shame. She couldn't even look at the parents. Kill me. Just kill me now. There's a giant hole in the floor, and I am jumping into it. Oh, greater than over equal to less than over equal to oh. Supplies? You mean? Wait, you're just on your... Ethan, despite being a tech genius, finally caught on. He set Grace down immediately, shedding his coat to wrap it around her waist to cover the stain. Then, without a word, he bolted out the door. 10 minutes later, Ethan returned with a black plastic bag. In the living room, the 4 parents sat on the sofa. The atmosphere was incredibly awkward. They were all wearing expressions of people who desperately wanted to laugh, but were too ashamed of their own behavior to do so. Grace had locked herself in her room, refusing to come out. She was currently planning her relocation to a different continent. Ethan pushed open Grace's door and saw her face down on the bed, burying her head under a pillow. She hadn't moved an inch. Ethan couldn't help it. He let out a snort. She looked like she was trying to hide from the entire universe. Even though he'd been mentally prepared to raise the kid regardless, finding out Grace hadn't cheated, not that he really believed she had, was a relief. But man, the fallout was legendary. Grace heard the snort and immediately hurled a pillow at Ethan's head. Stop laughing. This is all your fault. I could have avoided this if you hadn't been so dramatic. Now I can't ever show my face again. I'm done. I'm leaving this planet. I'm moving to Mars. Grace pounded the bed with her fists, her face muffled by a stuffed pig. Ethan caught the pillow and struggled to keep a straight face. He knew if he laughed now, she might actually never talk to him again. Okay, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I got the dates mixed up. I thought you weren't due for another few days. Come on, get up. Change. Your parents and mine are still out there waiting. Grace froze. The pounding stopped. She went back to playing dead. 15 minutes later, Grace shuffled out of her room, her head hanging low, hiding behind Ethan. She didn't dare make eye contact. But even without looking, she could feel the 4 sets of eyes burning into her. Please, let the world end today. Ethan, suppressed grin firmly in place, led her to the sofa and sat her down. Lily Miller was the first to break the silence. She let out a small giggle. All right, Grace. It's my fault for jumping to conclusions. I shouldn't have ambushed you and Ethan like that. Is your stomach hurting? I made some ginger tea. Go have some. At the mention of the tea, Grace felt her face heat up all over again. It reminded her of the nutrition and the marrow bones from earlier. Mom, please. Stop talking. I'm so embarrassed. All right, she's sensitive. Let go, Mary Ford said, smiling at Lily. Besides, it's probably for the best that Grace isn't pregnant yet. She's still in school. She should have a few more years of being young before she has to worry about diapers. We just got ahead of ourselves. We're sorry, Grace. Mary's apology made Grace feel a little better. She whispered, It's okay, Mary. I should have explained it better. Ethan and I aren't thinking about kids yet. Not until after graduation. But don't worry. Everything is fine between us. We aren't going anywhere. So you guys, don't have to worry. Grace noticed all 4 parents let out a massive, synchronized sigh of relief. Especially her own parents. They looked like they'd just been pardoned from a life sentence. Wow, thanks guys. Glad to know you were that worried about us breaking up. But wait, if Grace isn't the one who's pregnant, then who is? Frank Ford looked at the EPT still sitting on the table. He turned to George Miller with a mischievous grin. George, I didn't know you still had it in you. Are you trying to give Grace a little brother at your age? Lily Miller blushed. Don't be ridiculous. I told you, I'm nearly 50. Grace is practically married. It would be a scandal. I was thinking about it. It has to be Lillian. Grace suddenly remembered Lillian going out to buy supplies yesterday afternoon. Lillian said she was on her period, too. But if she was on her period, how could she be pregnant? Mom, that doesn't make sense. If Lillian was pregnant, why wouldn't she tell us? And I've never even heard of her having a boyfriend. Aunt Brenda is so strict. She's always trying to set Lillian up with those guys back home, so she could get a high dowry for Lillian's brother. She would never let her date someone secretly. Lily Miller shook her head, her expression grim. I don't think I'm wrong. Lillian was acting very strange. She was depressed, and now I think I know why. She's in trouble. Lily's heart started racing. Oh God, I have a bad feeling. Lillian, I need to call her. I hope she isn't doing anything desperate. Lily rushed to the phone and dialed Lillian's number. Since Lillian had started working, she bought a used cell phone. She tried twice, but there was no answer. In a panic, Lily called the factory where Lillian worked. She'd kept the manager's number from when she'd helped Lillian get the job. Hello, this is Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang, E. This is Lillian's aunt. I'm trying to reach her, but she's not answering her cell. Could you put her on? Lillian? She isn't here today. She took a sick day. Lily went cold. A sick day? Oh, okay. Thank you. She hung up, her hands shaking. George, something is wrong. Just then, the phone rang. It was Lillian. Lily grabbed it. Lillian, where have you been? Why didn't you answer? Lillian's voice sounded forced and breezy on the other end. Oh, yon Lily. Sorry, I was in the bathroom. Couldn't get to the phone. Why are you calling so urgently? Lily let out a breath of relief. Oh, thank God. Why aren't you at work? I called the factory, and they said you were sick. Oh, yeah. I just have some cramps, you know. My period. I just needed the morning off. Suddenly, a cold, clinical voice sounded in the background of Lillian's call. Patient Lillian Vance, your procedure is scheduled for 11:30 a.m. Please proceed to the ultrasound room, and make sure your family member is here to sign the consent forms. Lily froze. Lillian, are you at the hospital? Are you having surgery? Are you sick? No, Aunt Lily, it's not. I have to go. I'll call you later. Click. The line went dead. In the Millers' living room, the atmosphere shifted instantly from awkward comedy to somber tension. They'd all heard the voice over the phone. Lillian wasn't having cramps. She was at the hospital for an abortion. Lillian was barely 20, only a year or two older than Grace. Frank and Mary Ford exchanged a silent, heavy look. They didn't know what to say. Mom, was that Lillian? She's at the hospital? Grace looked at her mother, the realization hitting her. Is she getting an abortion? Lillian must have been dating someone secretly, gotten pregnant, and was trying to handle it before her parents back home found out. Grace knew Lillian didn't have much money. She sent almost everything back to Aunt Brenda. If she was trying to get a cheap procedure, it could be dangerous. Grace had heard horror stories about girls dying in unlicensed clinics or ending up sterile. I have to go there. George, let's go, Lily Miller said, grabbing her purse. Grace stood up. I'm coming too. Lily shook her head. No, gracias. You're already feeling under the weather. You need to stay here and rest. George and I can handle this. Lily and George hurried out. Frank and Mary stayed for a few more minutes to offer support. Then they headed home as well. The house was suddenly quiet, leaving only Ethan and Grace. She'll be okay, Ethan said, stroking Grace's hair. Don't worry. My stomach hurts, Grace whispered, leaning her head on his lap. Ethan gently rubbed her belly, his warm palm soothing the cramps. Within 10 minutes, Grace had drifted off to sleep. 10 days later, by mid-afternoon, George and Lily Miller hadn't returned, but Ethan and Grace had to head back to campus. They decided to grab dinner at the university cafeteria. While they were eating, Ethan's phone rang. It was Secretary Ben, Deputy Mayor James Bowen's right-hand man. Hello, Secretary Ben, Ethan said. Ethan, the deputy mayor asked me to follow up on the re-employment plan for the mill workers. He's very focused on this. When is the West Ford Logistics Park officially opening? The preparations are basically complete, Ethan replied. We're just doing the final finishing touches. It should be within the next few days. That's good news. If you have time, the deputy mayor would love for you to come by his place for coffee. He's been asking about you. You two can talk about the hiring details then. Ethan smiled. I'd love to. I've been meaning to thank him for his help with the shipyard situation. Great. I'll let him know. We'll see you then. A week later, the upscale residential compound for city officials. James Bowen had just finished his morning workout and was relaxing in his living room, watching the news. His wife, Laura, came in with a bag of groceries. She was surprised to see him still home. James, it's the weekend. Didn't you promise Bill you'd go fishing with him? It's already 10:30 and you're still in front of the TV. James usually watched the news religiously, but Laura noticed he was actually watching commercials. The same commercial for a local electronics store playing on repeat. Normally, James hated repetitive ads. James chuckled. Fishing? Who wants to sit on a boat with an old man like Bill all day? Laura, dear, could you make a few extra dishes for lunch? And help me find that private reserve coffee I put away. I have a young man coming over for a chat. A young man? You mean Ethan Ford? Laura asked. James nodded. The very one. He called yesterday. He should be here around 11. I'll get right on it. Laura liked Ethan. He was sharp, humble, and had a good heart. It was rare for her husband to take such a liking to a youngster. A short while later, there was a knock at the door. James went to answer it himself. Standing there was Secretary Ben, dressed in a sharp suit and carrying several gift bags. James's face fell slightly. Ben, it's the weekend. I thought you were taking the day off. And what's with all the gifts? Since when did you start suckering up to me with this superficial stuff? Ben left. Don't look so disappointed, sir. If I told you these were actually from Ethan, would that help? From Ethan? Where is he? James looked past Ben and saw Ethan coming up the stairs, also laden with bags. Deputy Mayor, I brought some coffee beans for you. Private reserve, just for you to try, Ethan said, holding up 2 premium boxes. James shook his head, pointing at the bags in Ben's hands. The coffee is fine, but why the rest of this? Do I look like someone who accepts bribes? Don't worry, sir. These aren't for you. They're for your grandson, Jared. Ethan took the bags from Ben. Look, I got him a new dictionary, an encyclopedia set, the Big Book of Why, and some calligraphy practice books. It's all educational material. You can't say no to stuff for the kid's future, right? James glanced inside. Along with the books, there were a few high-quality toys. It was a lot, 4 or 5 bags worth. None of it was extravagant, but it was exactly what a kid Jerry's age needed. It was thoughtful. James realized Ethan was trying to thank him for the recent political support, but knew James wouldn't accept direct gifts. This kid was a genius at navigating social dynamics. Jerry's been whining for that encyclopedia set for weeks. You're going to spoil him rotten. James chuckled. Go mean. The coffee's brewing. I've been waiting for you. Thank you, sir. Ethan stepped inside, humble and polite. All right, sit down, let's talk, James said, waving him toward the sofa. Once they were settled, James leaned in. So, Ethan, tell me the plan. How exactly is the West Ford Logistics Park going to operate? And how many of those mill workers are we actually getting back to work? How are the opening preparations going? When's the ribbon cutting? Can we get it done within the next 2 months? And as for the jobs, how many positions are you opening for the laid-off workers? If you need more manpower or resources, just say the word. I can have Secretary Ben assist you. James Bowen sat next to Ethan, firing off questions like a man who'd been losing sleep over the matter. It was clear this project was his top priority. Secretary Ben nodded in agreement. He's right, Ethan. If there's anything you need, don't hesitate. The deputy mayor has been asking for daily updates. Ethan laughed. Sir, please take a breath. I'm here specifically to give you the rundown. The West Ford Logistics Park is basically complete. We're opening with over 1,300 positions. Of those, over 1,000 are reserved specifically for the workers from the Tri-State Steel Mill. These are foundational roles: warehouse management, logistics, and back-end support. They don't require high degrees or advanced technical skills. We've also set up a re-employment training center. Training starts in a few days. We'll assess their skills and place them in the best fit. I promise you, we won't leave a single worker behind. As for the opening, we're doing the final walkthroughs this week. We should be ready for the grand opening in 7 days. James Bowen's face lit up. He burst into a boisterous laugh. 1 week. That's incredible. And 1,000 jobs. That covers almost everyone from the mill. You've taken a massive weight off my shoulders, Ethan. You've thought of everything. James patted Ethan on the shoulder, looking more impressed than ever. The training center is key. Most of those mill guys haven't had to look for a job in 20 years. Giving them a path back to work without the anxiety of the unknown. That's good business, Ethan. Very good business. Ethan smiled humbly. It's the least I could do. I'd be honored if you would attend the opening and help us cut the ribbon. James didn't hesitate. I wouldn't miss it for the world. You count on it, Ethan. I'll be there. With James's promise, Ethan felt the final piece of the puzzle click into place. While the logistics park was his own venture, Having the backing of the most powerful man in the city would give the West Ford brand instant credibility. Laura Bowen came out of the kitchen with lunch. Seeing the three of them laughing and talking like old friends, she smiled. James, stop talking shop for 5 minutes. It's lunch. Let's eat. Ethan and Ben come to the table. It's the weekend. Give your brains a rest before you burn out. James laughed. Listen to the boss. We'll finish this over lunch. They spent the next hour talking, though James couldn't help but dig into more logistics details. It was a productive, jovial meal. Afterward, Ethan stayed for one last cup of coffee before calling Tank to pick him up. Time flew by, and the day of the West Ford Logistics Park grand opening arrived. The facility was decked out in banners and balloons. It was a festive atmosphere. Dozens of the city's most prominent business figures were in attendance. Many had come uninvited, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious mastermind behind the West Ford Group, a company that had seemingly appeared out of nowhere to dominate the local tech and logistics scene. With an hour to go before the ceremony, the main lobby was already packed. Mr. Harmon, can you believe the growth of the West Ford Group? They've built an entire subsidiary from scratch in less than a year. A young man in a sharp suit followed a portly, middle-aged man through the crowd, looking around in awe. I heard the city gave them a massive grant for this. I wonder what the CEO is like. He must be a titan. Clyde Harmon, clutching a black leather briefcase under his arm, let out a dismissive snort. Kevin, you got a lot to learn about the market. The CEO of West Ford? He's not just a titan. He's the uncrowned king of this city. Do you really think this logistics park is his only play? You're dead wrong. Did you hear about what happened with Walter Haynes, the old shipping king? My sources say this West Ford CEO absorbed Haynes's entire fleet and is aggressively expanding into maritime freight. He's going to be the next shipping king of the Midwest. The secretary, Kevin, gasped. The next shipping king? That's insane. He must be legendary. In Kevin's mind, the CEO was a grizzled, ruthless old man with a heart of stone. Clyde Harmon nodded. He has to be ruthless to pull off what he's done in 12 months. If we can get an introduction today, maybe secure a contract or two, it might be the only way to save our company. Clyde's business, Harmon Department Stores, was a traditional retail chain. In the last 2 years, the rise of electronics and big box stores had eaten his margins. He was bleeding cash. He knew he needed to pivot to e-commerce, but he was clueless. Partnering with West Ford was his last hope. Wait, Kevin, look over there. Isn't that George Miller? Clyde pointed toward a man entering the lobby. Kevin looked. The former supervisor from the steel mill? What's he doing here? Clyde smirked. Seeing an old friend in a lower position always made him feel better. The mill went bust months ago. Look at him, trying to look sharp in that cheap suit. How pathetic. Well, if it isn't Supervisor Miller. Clyde Harmon walked over to George Miller with a booming laugh that was entirely insincere. George heard the voice, and his face immediately soured. Harmon, what are you doing here? Clyde chuckled. Don't be like that, George. We're old classmates. Why the long face? They were indeed old classmates. High school rivals, actually. They'd both been in love with Lily Miller. George had won her heart, and Clyde had never quite gotten over it. They'd even gotten into a fist fight over her back in the day, which George had won decisively. Decades later, Clyde still enjoyed a good jab at George, especially now that the steel mill had shut down and George was technically unemployed. George's companions, 3 other former mill workers, looked at Clyde with curiosity. George, who's the guy in the fancy suit? Stan Phillips, a broad-shouldered man, asked. He's the owner of Harmon's Department Stores, George said, his tone flat. Clyde smiled. George, I heard about the mill shutting down. Are you here looking for a job? Any luck? You know, the job market is tough these days. If you're struggling, you should have come to me. We're old friends. I'm sure I could find a spot for you in my company. I could even make you the head of security. George rolled his eyes. Harmon, you really get off on this, don't you? Why don't you go find a mirror and look at your own pathetic face for a while? Hey, I'm being serious. $1,000 a month is better than nothing. If you don't want to help, fine. Clyde shrugged, affecting an air of wounded innocence. Stan Phillips realized there was bad blood here and tried to play peacemaker. Mr. Harmon, we appreciate the thought, but the city leadership already has a plan for us. Most of the mill workers are being rehired here at the West Ford Logistics Park. We've already started our training. Clyde's eyebrows shot up. Oh, is that so? I heard the city was doing a reemployment thing. So you're going back to work, George? What is it? Unloading crates? Manual labor? George glared at him. Harmon, get lost. I'm busy today, and I don't have the energy for your nonsense. Wow, sensitive. I was just joking. Clyde laughed. He felt a surge of petty satisfaction seeing George so annoyed. By the way, George, do you know the owner of the West Ford Group? George snorted. No, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. Whatever. I have people to meet. Catch you later. George turned and walked away. Clyde watched him go, grinning. Kevin, look at that guy. Still has that chip on his shoulder. Kevin nodded. Yeah, no class. He'll be a grunt worker until he retires. Come on, let's go find someone important. Clyde was feeling great after that exchange. He was actually humming a tune as he walked through the lobby. Suddenly, a group of men in sharp navy blazers and slacks, the unofficial uniform of city administration, emerged from the back offices. The lobby went quiet. Everyone turned to look. Hey, look, it's Secretary Ben. Good morning, Secretary Ben. Is the deputy mayor coming? A few wealthy business owners rushed forward to greet him. Secretary Ben was James Bowen's right-hand man. His presence carried immense weight. Clyde Harmon recognized Ben, and his eyes lit up. The rumor was that Westford was the city's pet project. If he could get in good with Ben, Ben could introduce him to the CEO. Clyde had met Ben once or twice at various business summits, though they weren't exactly close. Still, he needed to make a move. He broke into a trot, weaving through the crowd to grab Ben's hand. Secretary Ben, long time no see. Secretary Ben looked down at his hand, which was being vigorously pumped by Clyde Harmon. He blinked, clearly having no idea who this man was. But in his line of work, he was used to people pretending to be his best friend. Long time indeed. You are. Ben's voice was polite but distant. It's me, Clyde Harmon, from Harmon's Department Stores. We met at the Chamber of Commerce Gala last year. We had a long talk about retail logistics. Clyde laughed, ignoring the fact that the long talk had been about 30 seconds of him talking at Ben, while Ben looked for an exit. Ben Flechtalprechtist. Oh, Smeril. Of course, Mr. Harmon. Good to see you. Are you here for the ceremony? Actually, I was hoping to chat with you for a bit. I know you're busy, but I'd love to take you to lunch sometime soon. Clyde's smile was oily and desperate. I'd love to, but my schedule is a nightmare lately. Maybe another time, Ben said, using the standard political brush-off. Clyde didn't miss a beat. I understand. You're a busy man. But actually, I was wondering if you could do me a tiny favor. I'm very interested in meeting the CEO of Westford. I have some ideas for a partnership. But, well, we haven't been introduced yet. Ben understood immediately. Another one looking for a golden ticket. I see. Well, the CEO, is very busy with the opening today. But tell you what, once things settle down, I'll mention your name to him. But I really must be going. Duty calls. Catch you later. Of course. Thank you, Secretary Ben. I'll call your office. Clyde's secretary, Kevin, watched Ben walk away, surrounded by a phalanx of admirers. Mr. Harmon, he's totally blowing us off. Clyde sighed. Of course he is. We aren't on his radar. That's the problem with not having the right connections. We need to find another way in. He felt a bit deflated, but then he spotted George Miller again. George was currently standing near a column, talking to a young man in a dark suit. Kevin, look. George is talking to someone. He looks like a local kid. Let's see what they're up to. Clyde needed a distraction from his own failure, and mocking George was his favorite hobby. George Miller and his two friends were looking around when they spotted Ethan and Wayne. Both of them were dressed in sharp, well-fitted black suits. George looked at them in confusion. Ethan? Wayne? What are you two doing here? Don't you have classes today? George. Hey, Ethan said, smiling. But before he could explain, George cut him off. Oh, I get it. You guys skipped class to see the opening, didn't you? George nodded knowingly. I can't blame you. It's not every day a place like this opens. This company, Westford, they're the real deal. If it weren't for them, 1,000 of us would be on the streets right now. Ethan's expression turned odd. He didn't quite know how to respond. Wayne Tank Turner was currently turning purple, trying to hold back a laugh. His shoulders were shaking. Actually, George, Wayne said, his voice straining. We aren't just here to watch. We're doing a little temp work. We're part of the security detail today. Wayne joked, gesturing to their suits. Security? George looked surprised. Well, that's good. It's a smart move. Working for a company like Westford, even as a temp, looks great on a resume. Good for you boys. Ethan let out a helpless smile. Technically, he was doing security. He was inspecting his own property. Wayne looked like he was about to explode. He couldn't wait for the moment George realized his future son-in-law was the one signing everyone's paychecks. Clyde Harmon and Kevin strolled over just as Wayne finished talking. George, still hanging around? And who's this? Clyde looked Ethan up and down. Ethan was young, clearly a student. Harmon, go away. This is Ethan. He's family. Not that it's any of your business, George snapped. Family, huh? So your daughter has a boyfriend? Clyde looked at Ethan again, a condescending smirk on his face. George, I offered to set your daughter up with my son, Jason, and you turn me down for this? No offense, kid, but students don't have much of a future. You'll be lucky if you can afford rent after you graduate. George, you're an idiot. You should have considered my Jason. He's going to be a manager at my stores. That's a lot better than being a security guard. Wayne's face went dark. He started to step forward to give Clyde a piece of his mind, but Ethan put a hand on his arm, shaking his head slightly. He wasn't going to waste his breath on a clown like Clyde Harmon. Just then, a voice boomed over the lobby speakers. Attention, everyone. The West Ford Logistics Park grand opening ceremony will begin in 3 minutes. Please proceed to the main stage. The ribbon cutting is about to start. Hey, George, how come a vice plant manager like you isn't up on stage? Clyde Harmon jeered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. George Miller's face flushed with embarrassment. The opening of the West Ford Logistics Park had attracted a slew of city and state officials. A laid-off steel mill manager like him didn't even rank on the guest list, let alone the stage. Oomph. Whether I'm on stage or not is none of your business, George snapped, glaring at him. Clyde chuckled, enjoying the moment. All right, I forgot. You're just a former vice manager, and the Tri-State Steel Mill is history anyway. He smirked, adjusting his tie. Tell you what, after this ceremony, if you're looking for work, give me a call. For the sake of our old school days, I might find a spot for you. George scoffed. A fox in a hen house never brings good news. You don't need to worry about my future. Ethan Ford, seeing George getting worked up, stepped in with a comforting hand on the older man's shoulder. Uncle George, sometimes dogs bark at people. We don't need to get down on all fours and bark back. It's not worth the energy. Clyde's face darkened instantly. You little punk. Who are you calling a dog? No class, no manners. Ethan smiled politely. My apologies. My manners are reserved for people. Certain animals don't qualify. Puffed. George couldn't help but snort with laughter. Ethan had a sharp tongue when he wanted to. Seeing Clyde eat crow was the highlight of his day. Clyde glared at Ethan, furious. Damn it, where are you from, kid? No respect for your elders? Is that how your parents raised you? Ethan's smile didn't waver. I respect elders. I don't respect old geezers who act like jerks. You. Clyde was so angry his hair seemed to stand on end. He sputtered, unable to find a comeback. He turned his rage back to George. George, you're letting your daughter date this guy? He'll drive you to an early grave. George raised a hand, his pride returning. Hey now, Ethan was the valedictorian, the state top scorer, and he's a student at a top university. He's 100 times better than that playboy son of yours. Clyde sneered. Good grades? What's that worth? He's destined to be a wage slave for the rest of his life. In this world, money is king. What's a college grad going to make? Peanuts. It's a joke. Wayne Tank, Turner straightened his suit jacket and stepped forward. How much he makes is none of your damn business. Why is your mouth so filthy? Clyde glanced at Tank with disdain. Another piece of trash. What? You want to hit me? Tank was rolling up his sleeves, ready to go, but Ethan blocked him with an arm. Easy, Tank. Getting physical is beneath us. Ethan checked his watch. Let's go. We need to get ready. Uncle George, we have some things to attend to. We'll talk later, Ethan said warmly. George nodded, smiling. Go on. Network a bit. Knowing more people will help your business. Ethan suppressed a smile. I'll listen to Uncle George. Ethan and Tank walked away. Tank shot one last glare at Clyde before following his boss. Punks, Clyde muttered, spitting on the ground. Boss, Secretary Ben is coming over, his assistant, Charlie, whispered in his ear. Huh? Where? Clyde spun around and spotted Ben, the deputy mayor's secretary, walking toward them carrying a briefcase. Ben seemed to be heading for the stage, passing right by them. Secretary Ben, good to see you. Clyde immediately plastered a sycophantic smile on his face and bowed slightly. George watched the display and grunted. Brown noser. Clyde ignored him. In this society, you had to kiss the ring of anyone doing better than you. People like George, who didn't understand the game, ended up unemployed in their middle age. Oh, Mr. Harmon, what's up? Ben stopped, looking slightly impatient. Clyde lowered his voice conspiratorially. Secretary Ben, has the owner of West Ford arrived yet? The ceremony was about to start, and he hadn't seen the mysterious CO yet. He couldn't help but ask. Ben looked at him with a strange expression, surprised. Huh, didn't you just see him? Huh, I saw him. No, I didn't. Clyde was confused, completely lost. Ben looked even more puzzled. Weren't you guys just chatting? I saw you from a distance. What? Us? Just now. Clyde was baffled. Speaking of chatting, the only person he'd been talking to was that rude kid. Could he mean? Those two punks. No way, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Clyde mentally denied it 3 times in a row. Ladies and gentlemen, Please give a warm round of applause for the president of West Ford Group, Mr. Ethan Ford. Suddenly, the PA system boomed with the announcer's voice, followed by thunderous applause. Everyone's eyes turned toward the stage. Ben pointed toward the platform. There, that's the president of West Ford Group, Mr. Ford. Clyde followed his finger, and in the next second his eyes bulged, and his jaw hit the floor. Holy crap. It was really him. He was dumbstruck, frozen in place as if struck by lightning. The figure on stage was impossible to believe. That kid was the president of West Ford Group. A young man in a sharp suit walked to the center of the stage, wearing a gentle, confident smile that made people feel instantly at ease. Many guests in the audience looked shocked. No one expected the head of the Dark Horse Company, West Ford Group, to be a young man in his early 20s. It was unbelievable. But the most shocked person in the crowd was George Miller. George was petrified, looking like a statue with his mouth wide open. Ethan is the president of West Ford Group. Huh. George reached up and pinched his own cheek. Ouch. It hurt. He wasn't dreaming. George, why your daughter's boyfriend, is the PP president of West Ford Group? Clyde turned his head slowly, his voice trembling. I just found out too, George said, laughing helplessly. He was shocked. But then a wave of immense pride washed over him. He was proud of Ethan. He had watched Ethan grow up, treating him like a nephew. Seeing Ethan achieve so much filled his heart with joy, and he was happy for his daughter, Grace. Clyde Harmon, do you give up now? My son-in-law is 100 times better than your son. Ha ha ha. George laughed loudly. Clyde's face was pale as a sheet. He didn't just give up. He felt like dying. The thought that he had just insulted the owner of West Ford Group made his blood run cold. It was over. Done for. Offending West Ford Group meant he was dead meat in this town. Ben patted Clyde on the shoulder and laughed. Hey, Mr. Harmon, you seem pretty tight with Mr. Ford just now. Why ask me for an introduction? You're funny. Ha, Clyde. Ben chuckled. TSK with Mr. Ford looking out for you. It'll be smooth sailing from here on out. All right, can't chat. I have to accompany the deputy mayor for the ribbon cutting. Ben left, leaving Clyde standing alone in the wind. A mess. The thought of Ethan's future, looking out for him, sent a chill down his spine. George, old buddy, everything in the past was just me being petty and a jerk. For the sake of all the years we've known each other, about what happened just now, can you ask your son-in-law to let me off the hook? Just pretend I'm a fart in the wind. Clyde looked at George with a pale face, looking like he was about to cry. George huffed coldly. Now you know fear? Where was that arrogance just a minute ago? If you want to apologize, go do it yourself. That's Ethan's business. I can't interfere. Clyde's face crumbled, his heart sinking to the bottom of the ocean. On stage, after Ethan gave a brief welcome speech and introduction to the West Ford Logistics Park, the ribbon-cutting ceremony officially began. Ben followed an older man in a dark gray suit toward Ethan. The older man had a ruddy complexion and a beaming smile, looking genuinely delighted. Ethan, congratulations. I had a look around when I arrived. You set this up even better than I imagined. The old man laughed, patting Ethan on the shoulder with a look of paternal pride. Ethan smiled slightly, humble yet confident. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bowen. But this isn't just my work. It's the effort of the entire West Ford Group staff. And of course, thanks to your support. The crowd below was stunned. That's Deputy Mayor James Bowen. No way, Mr. Bowen came personally to cut the ribbon for West Ford Logistics Park. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Everyone was stunned. No one expected a deputy mayor to attend the opening of a private enterprise, and it looked like he had a great relationship with Mr. Ford. Before the crowd could recover, two more men walked onto the stage. The first thing they did was walk straight to Ethan, shaking his hand with wide smiles. Clyde stood in the crowd, staring blankly at the two men. They looked familiar, but he couldn't place them. But his gut told him they were big shots. Mother of God, isn't that Mayor K? Mayor Tom K from Fulton is here too. Holy cow, this is huge. Just as Clyde was wondering, a middle-aged man next to him whispered in awe, Larry, you're here too. Clyde looked at the man in surprise. It was a business acquaintance he'd met a few times. Oh, Mr. Harmon. Small world. Larry looked surprised, but since they were both in the retail business looking to pivot, it wasn't too odd to meet here. Larry, what did you say about Mayor K? Which Mayor K? You know those people on stage? Clyde pointed to the group chatting intimately with Ethan and asked. Larry paused, looking incredulous. No way, Mr. Harmon. You're a business owner yourself. How do you not know these heavy hitters? The one next to Mr. Ford, in the black suit with the slicked back hair. That's Mayor Tom K. of Fulton. You know Fulton, right? Rumor has it they're building a river port near Arlington, and it's going to be operated by West Ford Group. That's a massive project. And the one next to him, that's Councilman Arthur Lee. You know Councilman Lee, right? Never mind. You probably don't know him either. But let me tell you, these are titans. Absolute titans. The kind of people most of us can't meet, even if we beg. Larry got more excited as he spoke. Seeing such figures at a private company's ribbon cutting was truly unexpected. The people around them heard the conversation and sucked in breaths of cold air. Mr. Ford really is something else. To build West Ford Group from nothing a year and be this tight with the big bosses. His future is limitless. Just seeing this many big shots in one place makes today worth it. Even if I don't sign a deal with West Ford. What do you mean don't sign? Based on Mr. Ford alone, I'm locking down a partnership with West Ford Group today, no matter what. I have a feeling that anyone who hitches their wagon to West Ford is going to be set. George stood in the crowd, listening to the praise, his smile growing wider and his chest puffing out with pride. He always knew Ethan was smart, but he had no idea the kid was this powerful, achieving things quietly that George couldn't dream of in a lifetime. And he knew so many big shots. A true hero from the younger generation. Haha, Grace really has an eye for talent. But Clyde couldn't smile. Larry's words were just salt in the wound. Clyde's face had turned a sickly green. Every compliment directed at Ethan made his regret deepen, his heart plummeting further. It was over. Even God couldn't save him this time. Ethan wasn't just the founder. He was best buddies with the city's power players. Just a stomp from those three on stage would make Chicago shake. After insulting Ethan like that, was there any room left for him in this city? Clyde looked like he was about to explode, but didn't know how. He turned to his secretary. Charlie, why the hell didn't you pull me back earlier? Charlie looked aggrieved. Boss, I didn't know he was Mr. Ford either. Maybe we should go apologize to him. Clyde thought about it. It was his only option. Even if he had to swallow his pride, he had to apologize. After Ethan and James Bowen gave their speeches, the ribbon cutting officially began. Reporters swarmed the front of the stage, shutters clicking and flashes popping, recording the historic moment. The first e-commerce logistics park in Chicago, one for the history books, hostesses brought up the scissors on velvet trays. James Bowen laughed heartily. Haha, come on everyone. Let's celebrate West Ford Logistics Park. May it grow better and better, and may Ethan's career be smooth sailing. Ethan smiled and responded, Yes, thank you for your concern, sir. Without your care and guidance, the park wouldn't have gone this smoothly. I am very grateful for your help. Councilman Lee laughed. That's also because Mr. Ford shares the burden of the city's leadership. Ha, come on, let's cut. Bowen laughed. The group cut the ribbon together. Confetti cannons fired, filling the air with colorful paper, creating a festive atmosphere. After the ceremony, Ethan walked through the crowd, surrounded by people offering congratulations. He smiled, responding politely, neither humble nor arrogant. Suddenly, someone squeezed through. Mr. Ford, about earlier, I want to apologize. I was blind and offended you. I am truly sorry. Clyde squeezed to the front, speaking nervously. His words silenced the sycophants around Ethan. Everyone looked at Clyde with shock or amusement. Someone had offended Mr. Ford at his own opening ceremony. This was interesting. Ethan's expression remained flat as he looked down at Clyde. What is Mr. Harmon saying? If there's nothing important, please don't interrupt my conversation with these gentlemen. Clyde's face tightened, his smile uglier than a cry. Mr. Ford. But before Clyde could finish, Ethan interrupted him. By the way, West Ford Group can't possibly reach the high standards of a big shot like Mr. Harmon. I, Ethan Ford, hereby announce that West Ford Group will never collaborate with Harmon's department stores. As for whether anyone else works with them, well, that's none of my business. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the circle coincidentally took a few steps back, distancing themselves from Clyde. Now they understood. This Mr. Harmon hadn't just offended Mr. Ford. He had dug his own grave. This clarified the situation for everyone. Anyone or any company blacklisted by West Ford Group was radioactive. They had to stay away or risk offending West Ford and ruining their own futures. Clyde's legs gave out, and he slumped to the ground, looking like a dead man. It was over. It was truly, thoroughly over. As Ethan and the officials departed, the ribbon-cutting ceremony concluded. Guests moved indoors for the reception, seizing the opportunity to network and build connections. Secretary Charlie watched the crowd thin out and whispered to Clyde, Boss, are we still going inside? Clyde snapped back to reality, his face a mask of misery. Go inside for what? Haven't I lost enough face today? Let's go back. Clyde took 2 steps, then stopped abruptly. No, I can't just leave it. I have to bring a gift personally to Mr. Ford another day. Yes, I have to send something. Damn it. Otherwise I won't be able to survive in Chicago. He was genuinely terrified. Having been in business for so long, he knew who to beg and which temples to pray at. He had a big ego, but when it came to the life and death of his business, pride had to go out the window. Charlie nodded repeatedly. Yes, we should send a gift. 3 days later. City Development Bank, downtown branch. In his office, Spencer Vance sat in his leather chair, looking exhausted. His brow was furrowed tight enough to crush a fly. Mr. Vance, what's wrong? Trouble at home? You've looked heavy-hearted these past few days. Liam Tate brought in a cup of tea, asking curiously. Spencer sighed heavily. Don't mention it. Just my rotten luck. I had a bad run these past few days and lost a chunk of money. My wife found out and has been nagging me every night. It's annoying as hell. He had gone with a few old friends to the underground casino at the Regent Hotel. He planned to play a few hands, but his luck was terrible. He lost over $30,000 in 3 days. He didn't dare tell his tigress of a wife the full amount, only admitting to losing a few grand. If she found out he lost $30,000, $20,000 of which was borrowed from the casino, she wouldn't just nag him, she'd beat him 3 times a day and lock him out of the house. The casino had been calling to collect for the past few days, and he was so stressed he was going bald. If he didn't pay up, the casino enforcers would come to him personally. Then he'd lose all face in Chicago. Liam was taken aback. He knew Spencer liked to play, usually hitting up nightclubs or KTVs, but he didn't know he was into gambling too. Seeing Spencer's state, the debt was probably significant, but Spencer had plenty of loan projects under him. Skimming a little off the top should cover it easily. Your wife just cares about you. But women don't understand us, man. Sometimes when you're out networking, you can't help yourself, Liam laughed. He was giving Spencer an out, saving his dignity. Spencer's face softened upon hearing this. Exactly. I didn't want to go at first. It was social pressure, couldn't say no. I figured I'd play a little. Who knew it would turn into 3 days? Liam, old buddy, the loan projects seem a bit scarce lately. Is the Chicago economy slowing down? This won't do. The national economy is booming. Chicago can't fall behind. Spencer looked out the window at the traffic, feigning concern for the country and its people. Liam understood immediately. Spencer wanted to dig up new clients to squeeze some oil out of to fill his hole. But the big established companies in Chicago didn't need money, and the small ones that didn't offer much oil. However, if you wanted oil, West Ford Group was practically dripping with it. They were the dark horse of Chicago, a leading enterprise, and recently launched the West Ford Logistics Park. Mr. Vance, have you heard? West Ford Logistics Park opened, Liam said with a sycophantic smile. Spencer's eyes lit up. Right, West Ford Group. How could he forget that fat sheep? Last time with the Victor Vane incident, he hadn't dared to ask Ethan for money, but the kid was sharp and had voluntarily given them a consulting fee. In this day and age, people with that kind of awareness were rare. West Ford Group was in a period of rapid expansion and surely needed loans. As old friends, he had to help, but he paused, thinking for a moment. Liam, I don't think it's appropriate to just approach Mr. Ford directly for business. What do you think? Liam narrowed his eyes and smiled. Oh, Mr. Vance, pushing business is secondary. The company has hired a lot of new people recently, and internal audits are tight. If Mr. Ford wants to continue getting loans, he probably needs to grease the wheels a bit more up and down the chain. Don't you agree? Spencer heard the implication loud and clear. Find a legitimate-sounding excuse to smoothly extract some cash from West Ford Group. You're right. We do need to grease the wheels, or work will be hard to get done later. Spencer laughed happily. Liam, give Mr. Ford a call. Let's set up a dinner. The Lotus Lounge. You got it, Mr. Vance. I'll contact him right now. Liam nodded eagerly. He secretly rejoiced. Another chance to make some extra cash. Outside the hotel near West Ford Logistics Park, Ethan was personally seeing off James Bowen, Arthur Lee, and Tom Kay. After these 3 days of observing, I have a lot of confidence in you, Ethan. I really didn't misjudge you. To achieve this much at such a young age is truly surprising. Come visit the house when you have time. I'll be waiting for you to come have tea, James Bowen said, patting Ethan on the shoulder with a gratified smile before leaving. Ethan smiled and nodded. Yes, I'll definitely visit when I have time. I'm just afraid you'll get annoyed with me. James laughed heartily. You kid, why would I get annoyed? I wish you'd come every day. All right, I know you're busy. I'm heading back. Ethan personally opened the car door, placing a hand on the frame to prevent James from bumping his head. James noted the gesture and was even more satisfied. Mr. Ford, we're heading out too. No need to see us off further. Next time you have a moment, come to Fulton. Let's discuss the port project more, Mayor Tom Kay said with a smile. Yes, I will definitely be there, Ethan responded. The river port in Fulton should have started construction by now. Once West Ford Group fully consolidated Walter Haynes's former territories in Chicago and integrated the resources, it would be time to visit Fulton. Ethan, keep up the good work. I'm rooting for you. If you need anything, just speak up. If it's within my power, I'll do my best. Heading out now, Councilman Arthur Lee said, patting Ethan's shoulder with a smile. Ethan smiled. Then I'll thank Councilman Lee in advance. After the big shots left, Tank walked up to Ethan and gave him a thumbs up, looking exhilarated. Boss, you're awesome. And Uncle George. I saw his eyes almost pop out of his head. I bet he's going to spread the legend of Ethan Ford all over the neighborhood when he gets back. Ethan laughed. Work hard in silence. Let success make the noise. Be humble. Don't add to the hype. All right, enough talk. This phase is done. Go book a large private room later. Let's have a celebration dinner and eat good tonight. You got it. I'm on it. Tank grinned, reaching for his phone. Just then, Ethan's phone rang first. Seeing the caller ID, Ethan looked surprised. Tank, looks like we might not make it to that celebration dinner tonight, Ethan said, shaking his head with a smile. Tank paused. What's up? Why not? Boss, who's calling? Ethan smiled cynically. It's Liam Tate from City Development Bank. Liam Tate? Boss, we haven't applied for any new loans recently. What does that guy want with us? Tank looked puzzled. Ethan curled his lips slightly. Who knows? Saying that, Ethan immediately put on an enthusiastic tone and answered the phone. Hey, Liam, what brings you to call me today? Hey, don't call me Liam. I'm just a team leader. How can I be on a first-name basis with President Ford? Huh, Liam joked. Ethan laughed. You're too kind, too kind. What instructions does Team Leader Tate have for today? Mr. Ford, stop teasing me. Mr. Vance said we should put together a gathering tonight. It's been a while, and if we don't have a few drinks, he's afraid you'll forget about your old buddies. As for the location, let's say the Lotus Lounge. Our treat. How about it, Mr. Ford? Are you free? A flicker of suspicion passed through Ethan's eyes. People don't visit the temple without a cause. Inviting him to dinner out of the blue meant they definitely wanted something. But he responded quickly, sure, see you at the Lotus Lounge tonight. What's wrong, boss? Liam wants to buy us dinner? Are we going? Tank asked, confused. If Liam is calling personally to invite us, we have to go. We still need the bank's cooperation in the future. Tank, come with me, Ethan said. Tank nodded. Do I need to prepare anything? Ethan shook his head. No, this time it's not us asking them for help. It's them asking us. My guess is it's nothing good. 8 p.m., Lotus Lounge. In a private room on the second floor, Spencer Vance, Liam Tate, and Leonard Miles have been waiting for some time. Spencer hadn't planned on inviting Leonard, but Leonard was in the same department and handled approvals. Bypassing him completely wouldn't look good if word got out. Before long, the door opened, and a waitress led two men inside. Sorry, traffic was terrible. Kept you three waiting, Ethan said with a smile as he entered. Spencer immediately stood up with a loud laugh, welcoming him enthusiastically. Mr. Ford, you finally made it. We were just waiting for you. You're a busy man. Spencer's sudden warmth surprised Ethan slightly, but he walked over with a smile. Oh, not a busy man, just busy with nonsense. Director Miles, Team Leader Tate, good to see you. Good to see you, Mr. Ford. Please sit. Liam laughed loudly, looking very pleased. But how much of that smile was genuine? Only he knew. Leonard Miles didn't show excessive joy, just smiling faintly and nodding at Ethan. Everyone took their seats. Spencer passed around cigarettes, and the food and wine arrived shortly. They drank and chatted. With a slight buzz from the alcohol, Spencer rambled from the Chicago economy to international affairs, then to future developments, his round beer belly protruding as he casually critiqued the world. Ethan listened with a smile, just waiting to hear what angle they were playing tonight. Seeing that enough wine had been consumed, Spencer shot Liam a glance. Liam caught the signal and smiled. Man, Mr. Ford, I never expected that in just 1 year, you'd not only make West Ford Group the top player in Chicago, but also get the subsidiaries up and running on such a massive scale. I heard everything. The opening of West Ford Logistics Park attracted a lot of big shots. Mr. Ford, your future is bright. Ethan looked humble. Not at all. It's just small potatoes. Don't tease me, brother Liam. Mr. Ford, are you guys hiring? Do you think I'd be a good fit? Maybe I should just come work for you, Liam joked. Ethan knew exactly what Liam meant. He was digging a hole, waiting for Ethan to jump in. Ethan didn't expose him. Instead, he played along. Brother Liam, stop joking. My place is just a small shop. Liam and Spencer exchanged a look, secretly laughing. They were waiting for that line. Spencer sighed and said, "Sigh, Ethan, you don't know. These days, nothing is easy. In our line of work, it's even harder." He lowered his voice. "Ethan, recently the bank hired a lot of new people, and there are internal audits. It's getting troublesome to easily approve your loans. Sometimes, you have to grease the wheels a bit, up and down." Ethan finally understood their purpose. They were here for bribe money. But judging by the situation at City Development Bank, it probably wasn't for greasing new people. With Spencer's status in the loan department, didn't need to look at anyone else's face. Greasing wheels was fake. Finding an excuse to ask for money was real. But Ethan didn't show it. He smiled. "Mr. Vance makes sense. Greasing is necessary. How much is needed?" Spencer put on a troubled face. "It might be quite a bit. At least this much. Otherwise the internal audit won't pass." He held up 3 fingers. Ethan knew this wasn't 3,000. 3,000 wouldn't warrant this much pageantry. It was at least $30,000. Spencer really opened his mouth wide. If it were 10 or 12 grand, Ethan wouldn't care much. It wasn't huge money, but Spencer opening with 30,000 was pushing it. It wasn't that he couldn't afford 30 grand. He just didn't like Spencer's attitude. "Taking me for a sucker?" Ethan pondered for a moment, then smiled. 30,000, right? Spencer nodded and sighed. "Oh, Ethan, I know it's a lot, and it puts you in a tough spot, but there's no other way. Some people inside are hard to deal with." Ethan thought for a moment and said, "All right, no problem. I'll have Tank bring it over to you later." Cash. Spencer was overjoyed. He didn't expect Ethan to agree so easily. It seemed Ethan really had made it big and didn't care about this amount of money. "Ah, good. Come, Ethan, I toast to you. Wishing you booming business and rolling wealth." "And I wish Mr. Vance step-by-step promotion," Ethan said, tilting his head back and downing the glass. After 3 rounds of drinks, Ethan and Tank excused themselves to use the restroom. Leaving the private room, Ethan lit a cigarette outside the restroom. Click. Ethan lit the cigarette and took a deep drag. "Boss, do you really believe Spencer is using that money to grease wheels?" Tank asked suspiciously. He had been with Ethan long enough to guess his thoughts. 30 grand wasn't much to them, but giving it away like this felt wrong. Give. We can give it. They take me for a fool, so I'll play the fool for now. But there won't be a next time." Ethan flicked the ash, smiling coldly. "Because once you start, if there's a first time, there will definitely be a second and a third." "Spencer Vance is greedy," Ethan said, hitting the nail on the head. Tank understood Ethan's implication. "Boss, you mean we can't work with Spencer anymore?" Ethan nodded, his voice cold. "Yeah, he's out." At the entrance of the restroom, Ethan and Tank leaned against the wall, surrounded by smoke. "Boss, our logistics park just opened, so we'll definitely need more loans in the future. Do you have a suitable replacement for Vance?" Tank asked. At that moment, footsteps approached from the corner. Ethan exhaled a long ring of smoke and looked toward the sound. "The person who can replace Vance is here." Tank turned to look and saw Leonard Miles, also coming to the restroom for a smoke. He understood immediately. "Mr. Ford, got a light." Leonard leaned against the wall next to Ethan, pulling out a cigarette. Ethan smiled slightly and flicked his lighter. Snap. "Mr. Ford, what Mr. Vance said earlier. Actually, I'm not too clear on it either. I hope you can understand that." After a moment, Leonard finally couldn't hold back and spoke up, distancing himself first. Ethan smiled faintly. "I'm just a businessman. I don't understand the internal workings. Since Mr. Vance said so, he must have his reasons. But is Director Miles really not clear?" Leonard straightened up. "I really am not clear. Even if there's greasing to be done at the bank, it probably wouldn't involve me." Ethan narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Is that so? I still believe in Director Miles." Leonard breathed a sigh of relief inwardly and smiled. "If it were up to me personally, West Ford Group is our bank's major client. Honestly, greasing wheels isn't really necessary. West Ford Group has such strong momentum. What other company in Chicago can compare? If West Ford Group can't get credit, then no other company in Chicago even needs to talk about it. Haha. If I were in charge of the credit department, West Ford Group wouldn't have to worry about loan approvals. It's just a pity I don't have the capability. My position is low, and my words carry little weight." Ethan smiled, knowing exactly what Leonard was getting at. Leonard wanted to move up. Leonard had hinted at wanting a higher position before, but at the time, Ethan felt Spencer could get things done, so he pretended not to notice. Now, Leonard had found an opportunity. Revealing this thought was him testing the waters. "Who says Director Miles doesn't have capability? I think you are very capable," Ethan said with a smile. A glint flashed in Leonard's eyes. He replied, Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Ford. He needed Ethan's support. West Ford Group support. This was crucial for him. Ethan smiled. Rest assured, Director Miles. Gold always shines eventually. West Ford Group will need to rely on you a lot in the future. Hearing this, Leonard couldn't hide the excitement on his face. He understood. Ethan was declaring his support. Good. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Thank you. You're welcome. It's only right. Come to my office for tea another day. We'll talk in detail, Ethan said with a smile. Okay, no problem. Whenever Mr. Ford is free, I'll be there, Leonard responded quickly. Ethan nodded. All right, we'll talk then. Director Miles, go ahead. Tank and I are heading back. Ethan finished speaking and led Tank away with large strides. Watching Ethan's retreating back, Leonard let out a long breath. Ethan was young, but his methods were formidable. Not only had he built West Ford Group to its current scale in a year, but he also had great relationships with big shots. With Ethan's support, the battle was half won. Spencer had skimmed enough. It was time for someone else to sit in that seat. Leonard leaned against the wall, waiting until Ethan and Tank completely disappeared around the corner before following. On the way back, Tank whispered, Boss, does Director Miles want to take over? Yeah, Leonard Miles is an ambitious man, Ethan said bluntly. Leonard might look low-key and quiet, but he had way more tricks up his sleeve than Spencer. He was deeper, and his ambition was bigger. Ethan felt Leonard was smarter than Spencer. Are we going to support his rise? Tank asked, puzzled. Ethan smiled. Not necessarily, but he is indeed a good candidate. Working with smart people is always better than working with fools. At least smart people understand the situation. They have desires, but they know restraint. Tank suddenly understood and praised. You're right, boss. When the two returned to the private room, Spencer came over with his glass. Ethan, cool me. Let me toast you again. No problem, Spencer. Cheers. Ethan smiled, picked up the glass from the table, and downed it in one go, very straightforward. Good. Ethan, you really are a man who does big things. Seeing Ethan giving him so much face, Spencer felt a bit floaty. He slung his arm around Ethan's shoulder and chuckled. Ethan, I'm happy tonight. I'm taking you to a good place. Ethan's eyes flickered slightly. Knowing Spencer, his good place was definitely nothing wholesome. However, Ethan didn't want to tear up their agreement openly just yet. He had already promised the money. At least let him finish the job first. Haha, sure. We'll follow your arrangement. Spencer. Chicago, Blue Wave Spa and Bath Center. 2 Mercedes pulled up at the entrance, and 5 men in suits stepped out. Ethan, I'm not blowing smoke. This place is top-notch. Not only is the foot so comfortable, but the massage is world-class. Satisfaction guaranteed. Spencer laughed loudly as soon as he got out of the car. Hey, Mr. Vance. Good to see you. The doorman recognized him and greeted him immediately. Ethan suppressed a laugh. It seemed Spencer was a regular here. Dining, drinking, cards, and spa massages. These were the standard methods for building relationships in the business world. At the turn of the millennium, this was standard practice. Executive spas and bath centers were popping up all over Chicago. Where there was demand, there was supply. Ethan surveyed the spa in front of him, somewhat surprised. The storefront was respectable, without the gaudy neon lights of the seedier joints. It looked like a legitimate establishment. In Chicago, many massage places weren't very respectable, often serving chicken with the foot rub. But this place looked surprisingly clean. Could Spencer actually be going for a pure, green spa treatment tonight? Regardless of whether Spencer was going green, Ethan certainly was. Don't touch the women in these places. You never know what you might catch. It's hard to say. It does look like a nice place. I've been a bit tired lately, so thanks, Spencer. Ethan smiled. Haha, we're all family here, Ethan. Don't be polite. My treat tonight. Let's just have fun. Spencer laughed again, very pleased with himself. The group of 5 entered the spa. A hostess greeted them quickly, leading them to a large private suite. The suite had 5 wide reclining chairs where one could lie down for a massage or sit up for a foot soak. Mr. Vance, same as last time? You want Lola again? We have a few new technicians recently, top-tier skills. Should I introduce them to the bosses? The hostess, Mama Jean, recognized Spencer instantly and spoke familiarly. Spencer waved his hand grandly. Mama Jean, you understand me. Same as last time, give me Lola, and for my brothers here, give them the deluxe massage package. Call a few skilled girls over. Use the new ones you mentioned. Get them over here to help Mr. Ford and Mr. Turner relax properly. All right, gentlemen, just wait a moment. I'll arrange it right now. Mama Jean giggled, noting down the request, and went out to organize the technicians. Liam looked around the environment, thinking of Mama Jean's curvy figure, and said with glowing eyes, Mr. Vance, you really are something. Knowing a great spot like this. Spencer laughed loudly. Haha, just wait and enjoy. It'll definitely satisfy you. And Ethan, Tank, don't be shy later. Tonight we are here to enjoy. Ethan looked calm and natural, smiling. Sure, we won't be polite then. Boss this. Tank tugged at Ethan's sleeve, looking unnatural. In a place like this, he was a bit cramped. He was mostly worried that if his girlfriend Chloe found out he came to a place like this, she would skin him alive. Ethan teased him instead. Tank, first time? Don't be nervous. Afraid they'll eat you? Huh. Tank blushed and whispered, Boss, I really am a first-timer. Don't be nervous, Tank. Everyone has a first time, Ethan said with a straight face. Tank looked at him, speechless. Boss, don't make me sound like a virgin. I'm not panicking at all. Ethan chuckled low in his throat. Good. Just stay calm. Treat this like a normal business networking event. It's your first time, but it definitely won't be your last. You need to adapt. Spencer Vance noticed the two muttering and asked curiously, Mr. Ford, Mr. Turner, what are you two whispering about so happily? Ethan gave him a thumbs up. We were just saying that, Mr. Vance has a discerning eye. The talent here is top-notch. Haha, looks like Mr. Ford is a man of culture too. You know quality when you see it. Spencer laughed, looking pleased with himself. Ethan sneered internally. Who's a man of culture like you? Just then, Mama Jean walked in leading a group of young women in tight skirts, all with curvaceous figures. Mr. Vance, the girls are here. These are the best in our shop. How would you like to arrange things? Mama Jean looked coquettishly. Hey, Mr. Ford is the guest of honor today. Let him pick first. Mr. Ford, don't stand on ceremony with me. Spencer laughed heartily. Ethan waved his hand and smiled. Picking is fine, but with so many people, it's inconvenient. How about arranging a separate private room for Tank and me? Spencer winked exaggeratedly, smiling lewdly. I get it. Did you hear that? Find a separate VIP room for Mr. Ford and Mr. Turner. He assumed Ethan was thin-skinned and embarrassed to do business in the same room. Mama Jean quickly responded, Yes, no problem. Mr. Ford, Mr. Turner, please follow me. Ethan gave Tank a look, and the latter immediately understood, standing up with him. Ethan walked out of the room first, with Tank following. The still attractive Mama Jean sidled up to Tank, hooking her arm through his and gently squeezing his bicep, her eyes rippling with suggestion. She clearly preferred someone of Tank's build. But Tank felt a chill run down his spine at her glance. He quickly pulled his arm away, keeping his distance. If Mr. Turner isn't happy with the service later, you can let me know. I can personally serve you. Mama Jean giggled, covering her mouth. Tank forced a smile. No thanks. Heh. Mama Jean led them to another private suite. The lighting inside was dim, with only 2 pink lamps illuminating 2 massage beds, creating a rather ambiguous atmosphere. Gentlemen, wait a moment. I'll call 2 girls over. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Mama Jean smiled professionally before closing the door. A moment later, 2 women in sexy tight skirts knocked and entered. Ethan glanced at them and knew they were from the previous group, just the one Spencer hadn't picked. Hello, it's your first time here, right, bosses? Would you like a foot soak first? One of the women with long hair asked respectfully. Tank looked unnatural and sat on the edge of the bed, fidgeting. Ethan patted his shoulder and laughed. I thought you said you weren't panicked? Relax. It's just a foot soak, not an interrogation. The 2 women brought in basins of hot water and began washing their feet. It was Tank's first time having someone wash his feet. It felt ticklish and awkward. He wasn't used to it all. Ethan, on the other hand, leaned back, looking like he was enjoying it. After a while, Tank couldn't take it anymore and blurted out, All right, that's enough. You can go. The woman jumped, startled. Thinking she had pressed too hard or caused discomfort, she stood up trembling. In this line of work, the customer was God. If a customer complained, she wouldn't just be fined. The boss would punish her. Just go. Tank waved his hand, softening his tone. The woman stammered, Why yes. Did the VIP feel I didn't do a good job? I can get a sister to switch with me. Without waiting for Tank to refuse, she turned and hurried out. Tank looked confused. He hadn't expected the outcome to be a switch. Boss, what is this? Forget it. I really can't get used to this, Tank said helplessly. Ethan laughed. If you're not used to it, just sit there. Wait until Spencer is done. Just then, Mama Jean came in leading a woman with short hair. She apologized to Tank. Oh, Mr. Turner, I am so sorry. Maybe the previous girl didn't serve you well. I brought someone else. She will definitely take good care of you. No need. Tank waved his hands repeatedly. Oh, Mr. Turner, don't be so polite. Mama Jean teased, thinking he was just playing hard to get. She turned and left, closing the door. Hello, VIP. I am number 69. I am happy to serve you. The short-haired woman, wearing the same tight uniform and carrying a kit, bowed to Tank. Tank froze instantly upon hearing that voice. Why did that voice sound so familiar? He sat up abruptly and squinted. The room was dim, but he could clearly see the woman's profile, the pale skin, the bridge of her nose. It was a face he knew incredibly well, a face he had dreamed of countless times, a face he had thought about day and night. Sally. Tank stammered out her name in shock. Huh? Wait. The short-haired woman looked up with the same expression of shock, calling out his real name. Tank rubbed his eyes to make sure he wasn't seeing things. He never expected that the short-haired masseuse standing before him would be his first love, Sally. Scenes from the past flashed through his mind like a movie. Back at Oak Creek High, he had secretly had a crush on Sally. But back then, he was terrified of girls and didn't dare approach her. He would peek in her classroom during breaks and stare from afar after school. It wasn't until graduation was approaching when Ethan taught him the 3 key points of chasing girls: thick skin, black heart, and shamelessness, that he finally summoned the courage to approach her. When Westford Electronics was established, he had some money and confidence. He made up his mind to confess to Sally. Heaven didn't let down his sincere heart. He successfully won her over. It was his first relationship. Sally was his first love. During the time they were together, he spent almost every evening after work eating with her, shopping, playing claw machines. It was the happiest time of his life. He had thought about marrying her once he saved enough money, giving her a lifetime of happiness. But he never expected Sally to cheat on him with a guy who looked rich. And the night the guy confessed to her, Tank saw it all. Ethan and Henry Payne had been there too. He could never forget the scene that night. It was a night of heart-wrenching pain. He didn't walk out of that shadow for a long time. Not until he met Chloe Jones, who saved him. He thought he would never see Sally again in this life, that she had completely disappeared from his world. But he never expected to meet her here like this. Tank was completely stunned, dumbstruck. He opened his mouth, but couldn't speak, his heart filled with mixed flavors. Sally stood frozen on the spot, as if struck by lightning. HM? Is that Sally? Hearing Tank's voice, Ethan sat up in surprise, looked closely, and saw it really was her. How did she end up in a bath center? Sally turned her head and saw Ethan. She squeezed out an awkward smile. Ethan. She then looked at Tank, lowered her head in panic, and tucked her hair behind her ear to hide the embarrassment on her face. Tank looked at her in disbelief and murmured, Why are you here? The private room fell into an awkward silence. Sally smiled uncomfortably and stammered, I work here. She didn't dare look Tank in the eye. Shame filled every inch of her body. Once, she thought she could find a man better and richer than Tank to entrust her life to. Time had passed, and now she had fallen to this state, while Tank followed Westford Company and became a high-level executive. Life was truly unpredictable. Tank took a deep breath to calm the shock in his heart and asked, How did you end up working in a place like this? Sally stole a glance at Ethan and didn't answer. Ethan shrugged, stood up, and smiled. I'm going to use the restroom. You two talk. He knew Tank held resentment and a knot in his heart regarding Sally. If this knot wasn't untied, Tank might carry it for a lifetime. This was the chance to untie it. Ethan walked over to Tank, patted his shoulder, and smiled. Tank, don't dwell on the past. Look more toward the future. Tank paused, then smiled bitterly. Boss, are you that worried I won't be able to handle it? Don't worry, boss. I know what to do. Ethan nodded. Since he knew what to do, there was no need for further reminders. Ethan put his hands in his pockets and left the room. The long-haired technician quickly followed him out. Now, only Tank and Sally remained in the room. With no one else present, Sally sat down and finally raised her head to look at Tank. Wayne, do you look down on me now? Tank nodded expressionlessly. Yes, I look down on you. You aren't the Sally from before. Sally smiled tragically. Then what was I like before? Did you know me? No, you never really knew me. Tank took out a pack of cigarettes, pulled one out, and said coldly, True. If I had known you, I wouldn't have fallen for you back then. Sally smiled bitterly. I am sorry. I know I hurt you. I am sorry. Tank lit the cigarette and asked coldly, Can a simple sorry erase everything? Guilt appeared on Sally's face. She remained silent for a long time. Finally, she sighed. I'm the only daughter in my family. You know my situation. My dad loves to gamble. My biological mom is gone. I only have a stepmother. The family has nothing. She paused, laughing at herself. You could say I was the family's only valuable asset. Yes, an asset. In my parents' eyes, I was just property. They were always calculating how to maximize my value. So, when Greg North appeared, I chose him. The reason was simple. His family had money and power. As long as I could marry him, our family could turn things around. It's just that later. Speaking of this, she choked up, her eyes turning red. She mocked herself. The easier a man gets something, the easier he discards it. When I was with Greg, I dropped out of school. Without Greg, I couldn't find a job. My parents kept rushing me for money every day. What else could I do? Except for coming to a place like this, I had nowhere to go. Yes, you should look down on me. You can laugh at me all you want. With that, she wiped away the falling tears, lifted her chin, and put on a look of utter indifference, readying herself for Tank's humiliation. Here, the customer was God. No matter how Tank humiliated her, she had to accept it. Tank flicked the ash from his cigarette and stared at her coldly. After a moment, he said, "Humiliate you? Not worth it. In my heart, you are already nothing." Sally froze, then smiled tragically. So that's how it is. Nothing at all. A wave of intense regret surged in her heart. If she hadn't broken up with Tank back then, she would be the wife of a major group executive now, wouldn't she? Her short-sightedness back then had truly ruined her entire life. Hearing Tank's cold, decisive words now made her feel like she had fallen into an ice cave. With red eyes, she looked up at Tank with a pleading gaze. "Wayne, I was wrong. Do we really have no chance to start over?" Tank raised his hand and swept the teacup off the table. Crash! The teacup shattered on the floor. "Can a shattered cup be put back together?" Tank asked coldly. Sally's face turned instantly pale. Her last bit of hope was extinguished. Now, they really had absolutely no relationship left. If there was any relationship, it was that of a customer and a technician. She gritted her teeth and undid the button on her uniform, revealing snowy white skin. Tank raised an eyebrow and asked, "What are you doing?" She sobbed, looked up, and said stubbornly, "You are the guest, I am the technician. What else can I do? This shop exists for these things. As long as the money is right, anything goes. Didn't you come here to do that sort of thing? Rather than letting other women serve you, let me do it. For the sake of our past feelings, I won't charge you." With that, she abruptly pulled off her uniform, revealing her body completely to Tank. "Even if I can't have your heart, I want to have you physically. Wayne, give me one more time." She stared intently at Tank, biting her lower lip, trying to be seductive. But Tank remained expressionless, as if everything before him was unimportant. He snubbed out his cigarette and said coldly, "It turns out I didn't know you, and you never knew me either. Put on your clothes and get out." Sally stood frozen in place. Tank had absolutely no interest in her anymore. She completely gave up hope. True, the difference between them now was like heaven and earth. One was a West Ford Group executive, the other was just selling herself. How could he be interested? With his status, he could have as many beautiful women as he wanted with a wave of his hand. Yes, it turned out she was the toad, wanting to eat swan meat. Sally smiled tragically, stood up, wiped her tears, put on her clothes, and bowed. "VIP, if you need anything else, please order." With that, she picked up her kit, turned, and left the private room. Outside the room, Ethan was smoking in the hallway. Seeing Sally come out wiping tears, he knew it was over. The connection between her and Tank was severed forever. Ethan returned to the room and saw Tank leaning back on the sofa, smoking and staring into space. "Tank, what are you thinking about?" "Figured out," Ethan asked teasingly. Tank snapped back to reality and smiled freely. "Boss, you underestimate me. What is there to figure out? She is her, I am me. Nothing to dwell on. Actually, I let go a long time ago. I was just surprised to see her in a place like this. Life is unpredictable." Ethan felt a little surprised, but mostly relieved. It felt like Tank had grown a lot. He wasn't as emotional anymore and could control his feelings better. This was a transformation. Ethan patted his shoulder and smiled. Everyone pays a price for their choices. Her being here is her price. "Come on, let's go get a drink," Tank asked in surprise. "Aren't we waiting for Mr. Vance?" Ethan laughed. "Is Spencer Vance more important than my brother?" "All right, whatever you say, boss," Tank replied. Ethan stubbed out his cigarette and smiled. "By the way, call Henry, Big Ed, and the guys. Let's go drink at our own place." "You got it. Calling them now." Tank took out his phone. Ethan then notified Duke and Dan Drake to wait downstairs, ready to move out. "Done, boss. Henry wanted to sleep, but I dragged him up." "Huh." Tank laughed happily. "All right, let's go. I know you can't stand staying here anyway." Ethan patted his shoulder, smiling. The two walked out of the private room, arms around each other's shoulders. Just as they were about to go downstairs, a group of people shoving and pushing blocked their way. "Bitch, I paid for a good time. What do you mean by giving me a face like your parents died? A middle-aged man with a dark, flush face and a pot belly grabbed Sally by the hair, shouting viciously. I'm sorry, Mr. Owens. I am sorry. Sally pleaded bitterly. You think I didn't give enough money? The middle-aged man, named Owens, let go of her, pulled out a thick wallet, took out a stack of bills, and threw them in Sally's face. Huh, is it enough? Is it enough? I can throw money at you until you kneel and call me daddy. Ha! Mr. Owens laughed harder the more he threw. Two middle-aged men beside him watched the spectacle, laughing so hard they couldn't close their mouths. Sometimes, humiliating people with money was pure entertainment for them. Sally stood there, face pale, eyes full of terror. She let them humiliate her, daring not to move a muscle. Excuse me. Coming through. Suddenly, a calm voice sounded behind the group. Mr. Owens heard the voice, turned around, and saw two young men. He immediately cursed. Fuck off. Excuse your ass. Isn't there room on the side? Ethan smelled the strong reek of alcohol on the man. He was drunk. He didn't plan to argue with a drunkard. Buddy, whatever business you have, can you let us pass first? Ethan negotiated reasonably. Get lost. Say another word, and I'll mess you up. Owens cursed, looking fearless. His two friends also stared at Ethan with ill intentions. Voyne. Sally called out to Tank in a low voice, tears streaming down her face, her eyes full of pleading. Tank heard it, but he acted as if he hadn't. He ignored her. Boss, let's take the other stairs, Tank whispered. He didn't want to conflict with people here, especially not in front of Sally. He wouldn't give Sally the impression that he was fighting for her. It was completely unnecessary. Ethan smiled. Sure. The two turned to leave. Tank didn't look at Sally once from beginning to end. Sally watched his retreating back. Let's take the other stairs, Tank whispered. He didn't want to conflict with people here, especially not in front of Sally. He wouldn't give Sally the impression that he was fighting for her. It was completely unnecessary. Ethan smiled. Sure. The two turned to leave. Tank didn't look at Sally once from beginning to end. Sally watched his retreating back, sorrow filling her heart. No, don't go. She wanted to reach out and grab him, but Mr. Owens grabbed her. Fuck you. Serving me and looking at other men. I'll show you what I'm made of in a minute. Huh? Owens laughed lewdly, and the two men beside him jeered along. Owens grabbed her hair and dragged her directly into a private room. Ethan and Tank went downstairs. All the way down, Ethan could see Tank was distracted. You think those old geezers were a bit arrogant too, right? Ethan asked with a smile. He saw through Tank's thoughts at a glance. They had grown up together. Tank couldn't hide anything. Ethan could guess it every time. However, this time he didn't intend to expose Tank's true feelings, only to tell him what he wanted to do. Tank paused in surprise, then laughed. Yeah, boss is right. That old guy was too arrogant. Damn it. He needs to be taught a lesson. Ethan shrugged, indifferent. Then do as you say. Teach him a lesson. Let Big Ed handle this one. At the entrance, Duke and Dan Drake came up to meet them. Boss. Tank. Ethan nodded. Go rest in the car. Wait for Big Ed. The two got into the black Mercedes. About 10 minutes later, 10 black Audis drove up from a distance. The convoy stopped next to the Mercedes. Big Ed and a group of men in suits got out. These men were all burly and fierce-looking. Big Ed walked to Ethan's window and bowed respectfully. Boss. The window rolled down. Ethan waved his hand and smiled. Go ahead. Drag those three geezers out. Big Ed grinned ruthlessly. Mission accepted. Brothers, let's go. Big Ed took the lead, followed by dozens of subordinates, surging into the spa like a black tide. In room 502, Mr. Owens had just gotten out of the bath. Seeing Sally's curvaceous figure, a fire ignited in him. I'll use you to put out the fire today. Owens was impatient. Not even bothering to dry off, he pinned Sally onto the bed. Sally turned her face away, expressionless, like a walking corpse. Bang! Suddenly, the door to the room was kicked open violently. Mama Jean was shoved into the room. Fuck, who is it? Owens, interrupted in his excitement, was extremely unhappy. He looked up toward the door. The next moment, he was completely stunned. Standing at the door were more than 10 men in suits, looking vicious. Especially the leader, a man with a huge head, face full of rugged flesh, built like an ox. His copper bell eyes radiated ruthlessness, terrifying to behold. Who are you people? What do you want? Owens asked nervously, stammering, his previous momentum completely gone. He muttered to himself, wondering if he had offended some major figure. Big Ed stepped forward slowly, looking down at him with a cold sneer. You're the one. Huh? Owens was confused, but the next moment, a large hand appeared before his eyes. Smack! Big Ed slapped him hard, knocking him directly from the bed to the floor. The slap made Owens see stars, the world spinning around him. Take him away, Big Ed ordered. Owens was dragged out like a dead dog. Mama Jean, if Boss Walsh asks, tell him Big Ed is handling business. If he has a problem, tell him to come find me at Pain Vein Group. Big Ed laughed. I wouldn't dare. We have absolutely no problem. None at all, really. Mama Jean waved her hands frantically, explaining in a panic. In Chicago, who dared to have a problem with the Pain Vein Group? Pain Vein Group controlled half the venues in the city. Their power was immense, covering the sky with one hand. Who dared to object? Only those tired of living dared to have an opinion. Big Ed laughed. Good. With that, Big Ed left with his men. Before long, only Mama Jean and the bewildered Sally were left in the room. Seeing them leave, Mama Jean breathed a sigh of relief. She ran over to Sally, put on a fawning smile, and asked, "Oh, my ancestors. Sally, why didn't you tell me you knew people from Pain Vein Group?" Huh? Sally looked blank. Late at night, downstairs at the Blue Wave Spa, Mr. Owens and his two friends were dragged in front of the black Mercedes. Owens felt incredibly anxious and uneasy, seeing the crowd of men in black suits surrounding him. His terror spiked. Holy crap. Who are these people? What did I offend at Big Shot? Oh, Owens, what's going on? One of his friends asked, voice trembling, legs shaking, almost crying. I don't know. Owens wanted to cry, but had no tears. Big Ed kicked him from behind, knocking him to the ground. At this moment, the door of the Mercedes opened. Ethan and Tank stepped out. When Owens and his two friends saw Ethan, their faces changed drastically. It was that young man. What is this kid's background? Owens remembered cursing at him just moments ago and felt like he was falling into an abyss. Ethan looked down at the three of them and smiled faintly. Weren't you guys acting pretty wild just now? Be big brother, I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm really sorry about earlier. It was my filthy mouth. My filthy mouth. Owens apologized frantically. Tank rolled up his sleeves, threw a punch that knocked Owens over, then grabbed him by the collar and slapped him across the face again and again. Filthy mouth, huh? Arrogant, huh? Fuck. Tank cursed as he slapped him. Stop. Don't hit me. Big brother. I was wrong. Please stop. I am sorry. Owens' face was swollen from the slaps, but he didn't dare fight back, only begging bitterly. Tank slapped him a dozen times before letting him go, exhausted. Having vented his anger, Tank straightened his clothes and said sternly, "Keep a low profile outside from now on. Don't forget who you are just because you drink a few cups of horse piss." Owens curled up on the ground, afraid to make a sound. The other two men knelt on the ground, shivering. Ethan patted Tank's shoulder and laughed. Vented enough? All right, let's go drink. Leave the rest to Big Ed. Tank nodded and smiled. Okay. Wayne, just as the two were about to turn and get in the car, a voice rang out from the entrance of the spa. Tank looked back. It was Sally. Sally saw him too. She had witnessed the whole scene. More than 10 cars outside, dozens of men in black suits. She was incredibly shocked. She hadn't expected it was really Tank who called these people, nor did she expect him to have reached such a level. She felt the difference between them now was like clouds and mud. Sally smiled bitterly. It seemed she really had no chance. They were no longer in the same world. Tank just looked at her calmly, then got into the Mercedes. Ethan smiled. Tank wasn't a cold-blooded person after all, but at least his knot was untied. Ethan got into the Mercedes. A moment later, the car started and drove away. Big Ed waved his hand and laughed. Take these 3 geezers away. Give them some hospitality. Yes, Big Ed. A thick-browed man beside him responded. Soon, Owens and the other 2 were dragged into cars. The 10 black sedans left one after another. Before long, only Sally was left standing alone at the entrance of the spa. Watching the convoy leave, her heart was filled with desolation, but mostly regret. If only she had persisted in being with Tank. If only she hadn't listened to her parents and chosen Greg North. If only she hadn't cheated. If only, but there are no if-onlys in the world. Tears gushed from her eyes. She squatted on the ground, hugging herself, sobbing uncontrollably. The next day, inside the Grandeur Club, Ethan woke up in a bed, empty liquor bottles scattered around. His brain felt like it was throbbing, a hangover headache. He rubbed his temples, sat up, and shook his head to clear it, recalling the events of the previous night. Last night, he had been drinking with Tank, Henry Payne, and the Pain Vein crew. He didn't know when he had gotten drunk and been sent to the guest room. He was about to get out of bed when he felt he stepped on someone. He looked over the side and saw Tank and Henry lying on the floor in a tangled mess. Tank was hugging one of Henry's legs, and Henry's foot was practically shoved into Tank's face. Tank was holding the foot, smacking his lips in his sleep as if gnawing on honey ham. Henry was hugging 2 empty wine bottles, still asleep. Holy crap. Why are you two sleeping on the floor? Ethan kicked Tank in surprise. Huh, where am I? Tank woke up in a daze, still not letting go of Henry's foot. At Chloe Jones's house, Ethan grinned mischievously. What? Chloe. Tank was scared witless. He threw away Henry's foot and scrambled up, frantically looking for his phone and jacket. This commotion woke Henry up. He sat up groggily, muttering to himself, "Why's the bottom of my foot so wet?" "Morning, boss." "Morning, Tank." Henry yawned and greeted them, very calm. "Morning, Henry. How much did you and Tank drink last night to end up sleeping here?" Ethan asked with a laugh. Don't remember. A lot anyway, but it was weird. I had a strange dream last night. I dreamt I was in a barn, and a pig kept licking the bottom of my foot. Such a weird dream. Henry scratched his head, looking confused. Ethan remembered the scene just now. What the hell? Tank, putting on his jacket, asked, looking puzzled. Boss, what are you laughing at? Then he looked around and realized. Crap, boss, you tricked me. Scared the life out of me. I'm taking you down. Tank threw off his jacket and lunged, trying to body splash to pin Ethan. Damn, Tank, you think you're my match? I train with Grace. Ethan shouted, then kicked Tank off the bed and applied a joint lock. Ow, boss, I surrender. Tank begged for mercy, tapping the floor. Tank, let me ask you something. Did you dream about eating honey ham last night? Ethan asked, laughing. Huh, boss, how did you know? Do you have superpowers? Tank looked back at him in disbelief. Henry's face changed. He jumped up and cursed. Fuck, my foot is dirty. With that, Henry ran to the bathroom to wash his feet. An hour later, the three brothers sat in the club's dining room, having breakfast. Boss, come on, tell me. How did you guess my dream? Tank asked curiously. Can't say. Ethan acted mysterious. Beside them, Henry had a dark face, burying his head in his steak. Just then, Ethan's phone rang. Ethan picked it up and saw an unknown number from New York. He answered. Hello, who is this? Hey, Mr. Ford, it's me. A deep male voice came from the other end. Ethan recognized the voice immediately. The Empire magnate, Charles Thorpe. Ethan put down his chopsticks and narrowed his eyes. Oh, Mr. Thorpe, it's an honor to receive a call from you, Charles Thorpe said coldly. Mr. Ford, you consolidated Walter Haynes's shipping business and made a big profit. But my Empire Group's business in the interior has taken a huge loss. You owe me an explanation. An explanation? Mr. Thorpe, I don't quite understand what you mean. Ethan laughed, feigning ignorance. In reality, he knew perfectly well. Charles Thorpe had used Walter Haynes's fleet to transport goods into the interior. Now that Haynes had fallen, all operations had ceased, including Empire Group's business. Ethan had consolidated Haynes's assets, but hadn't immediately restarted the interrupted operations. He wanted Charles Thorpe to understand what a true partnership looked like. Equality. Before, Walter Haynes had a single line of business and had to rely on Thorpe's favor. But Ethan was different. He could live perfectly well without Empire Group's business. But if Charles Thorpe lost this route, he'd have to spend energy finding a new one. If Thorpe wanted to act high and mighty again, that was impossible. Cooperation required mutual benefit and equal treatment. This was the foundation of partnership. On the other end of the line, Charles Thorpe's voice was heavy. We're both smart people. Don't play dumb with me. I'll give you two choices. 1. Restart Empire Group's transport business. 2. Permanently stop all trade business from New York to the interior. Don't doubt whether I can do it. If I, Charles Thorpe, say I can cut you off, I can cut you off. Ethan could hear the anger in his voice and secretly chuckled. After stalling for a while, Thorpe finally lost his patience. Ethan smiled. Mr. Thorpe, don't be angry. I have every intention of cooperating with Empire Group, and even more New York enterprises. Since you called personally to ask, I will definitely restart the tasks as soon as possible. I've been too busy lately and forgot about it for a moment. But rest assured, the transport business will return to normal very soon. Silence on the other end. Thorpe probably hadn't expected Ethan to agree so decisively. Charles Thorpe sneered. Mr. Ford, sometimes having too many schemes isn't a good thing. Ethan asked in surprise. Schemes? I don't know any. Did Mr. Thorpe misunderstand something? On the other end, Charles Thorpe raised an eyebrow, looking a bit annoyed. He had never met anyone as thick-skinned as Ethan. Ethan Ford, I'm giving you one last chance. If you want to cooperate, come to New York yourself to find me. This is your only chance. If you miss it, you won't just miss Empire Group's business. Don't expect any New York business at all, Thorpe said solemnly. Ethan waved his hand dismissively, though Thorpe couldn't see it. Hey, mister. Thorpe, don't be like that. I'll definitely come. I value New York trade very much. Don't worry, I'll visit you in New York personally. Tank, hearing Ethan's strange tone, almost sprayed his porridge, trying hard to hold back laughter. What bad idea was the boss cooking up now? The phone hung up abruptly. Ethan put down his phone and laughed. Look at this guy. Quite a temper. Henry leaned in. Boss, are we really going to work with Charles Thorpe? Ethan nodded. Of course. If I want to set up private equity and banking enterprises in New York, I can't do it without working with Thorpe. However, this cooperation is equal. Him wanting to suppress me? Impossible. Even if Thorpe doesn't cooperate, our development might be hindered, but the goal won't change. Westford Group's business has expanded. We make a lot of money, but we spend a lot too. Relying solely on City Development Bank's credit loans won't support Westford Group's high-speed development. Moreover, the electronics factory is about to be completed, and the semiconductor business is about to launch. This business burns too much money. Even if we burn all of Westford Group's profits, it might not make much of a splash. Investment in the semiconductor industry is counted in the billions. The total industry investment starts at the trillion level. Henry clicked his tongue hearing these numbers. To the current Westford Group, these were astronomical figures. No wonder Boss wants to set up financing channels in New York. Ethan placed a small bowl and a pot of porridge in front of him. If the current domestic financing level is this bowl, then New York's financing level is this pot. No, it could be even bigger. New York is a crucial bridge connecting the interior to international capital. Whether it's financing scale or cost, it far exceeds the interior. In 2001, the domestic stock markets had slumped significantly. The stock market's financing ability was worrying, and volatility was too high. Even issuing corporate bonds would be very costly. Most current corporate financing methods still came from bank credit loans. Only high-growth dark horse companies like Westford Group could get higher loan limits. Average small and medium enterprises found it very difficult to get financing, often resorting to private fundraising or high-interest loans, which carried high costs and risks. If Westford Group wanted to continue its rapid development, it had to lay out financing channels in New York. Ethan had been planning the financing channel system for a long time, based on private equity venture capital firms, absorbing massive investment funds from individuals and enterprises, and then establishing a joint stock commercial bank as a platform for financial operations. This would provide retail asset management, corporate investment and financing, international business, loans, insurance, and so on, injecting strong momentum into Westford Group's development. The operating mechanism would be similar to major commercial banks. To obtain a license for this type of joint stock bank, there were two main ways. One was to apply for approval in New York and get a formal license. The second was to acquire and merge with a bank that already held a license, introducing public capital for supervision, similar to capital entities like the City Development Bureau. Ethan knew very well how difficult and dangerous it was to achieve these two goals. But no matter how difficult, he had to do it. Westford Group's development steps couldn't stop, especially in the basic physical materials and semiconductor industry fields. The domestic industry was already lagging far behind foreign countries, especially the developed Western nations. Once they stopped, they would be choked by Western restrictions in the future. If they didn't lay out financing channels in New York, Westford Group would sooner or later hit a development bottleneck, like a fish in a vat, slowly losing vitality as the oxygen ran out. If development fell into slow growth or stagnation, the corporate system would rigidify and lose life. By then, it would be too late. Boss, when are we going to New York? Tank asked, gnawing on a large bun. Ethan smiled slightly. No ruse. It won't be too late to go after we complete Westford Group's restructuring. We have many businesses now. We need to reintegrate resources and platforms. Tank, Henry, I'll draft a new structure for you to look at later. If there are no problems, convene a meeting with the executives of Westford Group and its subsidiaries. Henry asked in surprise. A new corporate structure? Boss, are you going to take that step? He had heard Ethan mention it before. The new structure's core was Westford Capital. It meant changing Westford Group from being business-centric to capital-centric. This was an operation he couldn't understand. Wasn't doing business supposed to be business-centric? What kind of core was being capital-centric?